Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time for round 5 of V8SCOPS for 2025. We're racing at the beautiful, challenging, dangerous Belle street circuit for the 5th round of the championship in the Detroit River, just over the border from Canada. James Scott, not the James Scott that will be racing, but that guy, the statue man, is going to be watching over proceedings here as we get ready for Split 2 and Split 1 action as the night goes on. Special start time for this particular round. Things are going to be running a little shorter here at Belle Isle today. We got 19 laps on the cards for Split 2, 40 laps for Split 1. We're definitely going to have a lot of fun racing to bring you here on SimSpeed TV, live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Kick. It's me, Reese Gardner, David Haynes alongside me in the comms box with Jay Kennedy behind the scenes, pressing all the buttons, bringing you these live pictures. Well, David, supports action on Friday night. You were not there for it, but I can tell you it was an absolute rollicking time, and this circuit always produces a brilliant night of racing.
Yeah, you've got just enough speed in places like the back straight alongside the river, and from turn 2 down towards the braking zone at turn 3, but then also the wall's always so close. So with that combination, it's got just a little bit of Adelaide Street Circuit, a little bit of Gold Coast Street Circuit, Surface Paradise about it. And there it is, right in the heart of Detroit.
Interestingly, Canada to the south of this circuit. Just a short ferry ride, or maybe a bridge or two over. Well, this is the circuit. 13 proper corners around here. And turns 1 and 2, that whole first part of the lap is going to be massive for racing tonight. You got to nail the run out of turn 2, but you go over the bridge, over the little brook that runs underneath, and there's a massive bump that can unsettle you. Turn 3, the best spot for passing on the entire lap. You could get stuff done into turn 7 as well if you're brave enough, but very easy to run deep. The turn 11 hairpin, not particularly a passing spot, but we have seen a lot of drama there in the past, and the concrete walls are incredibly close all the way around this place. It is a street circuit through and through. With a bumpy concrete surface, David, the drivers will be struggling for grip out there.
Yeah, 12 and 13 sort of almost link up together, but not quite. So you see some drivers try to take an arc through there. Some drivers treat it a little bit more like 2 corners. Pit entry very sharply on the right-hand side out of there as well, and you need to slow down big time. There's not a whole lot of pit stalls around here. People are going to be sharing this 24 pit stalls. When I visited Detroit, I came here, I hired a bicycle, rode down. It was a beautiful day. I had an ice cream outside of turn 4, and in that giant paved paddock area behind the pit lane, the police were doing some driver training and skid pad practice. So lots happens here, or used to happen here, outside of race weekends.
Yeah, for sure. The Detroit Belle Isle Street Circuit no longer used as IndyCar moved to downtown Detroit for their race here. Well, Split 2 is up first at the circuit that has been digitally preserved. The grid set, of course, by pre-qualifying order. There's going to be a single 19-lap race for the Split 2 competitors here tonight, the drivers who weren't able to qualify inside the top 30-something cars that will make it into Split 1. A 37% fuel tank restriction, so you're not going to have much fuel to work with at the start. There will be a compulsory pit stop, so you can fill it back up. Anytime between laps 2 and 18, you'll be able to make your way in, but I would expect the majority of drivers will be waiting until just past the halfway mark to get their pit stop done, unless of course we see a safety car around the, say, lap 6, 7, 8 mark. We'll have to wait and see what happens there. There's a high probability of safety cars here at Detroit, and sometimes in the real world, historically, even the safety car couldn't keep it together around here.
Yeah, it depends who's driving. That guy got promoted within GM as well a couple of times since. So, oh yeah. He was, at the time that he wrecked the Corvette pace car here at turn 2, he was sort of head of some, like, platform development, and now he's, like, board and, like, head of brands and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, exciting. So, just whatever you do, go wholeheartedly into it.
Yes. No half-hearted wall taps here. Anytime we've seen someone go into the wall at this circuit, it has been spectacular. It has been huge. 1 minute left in the 25 minutes of practice, and Scott Gamble is on top of the timesheets. Of course, we won't know exactly where they will be starting the race until we get into the grid. Gamble, since the previous round, rejoining Evolution Racing Team. He started his top-line sim racing career with them, spent a few years with 9.5 Sim Sports, where he has certainly been a force to be reckoned with in the V8 Veterans Series, and now he's back with ERT and has lost none of his pace. Back home, so to speak, is Scott Gamble. So we'll see what he can do here with setting a time in practice only 0.004 of a second faster than Sebastian Vandel. Very close times between our top 2 competitors, just getting to the end of a lap here with 10 seconds to go. 1:31.557 he's going to remain at the top there and improve on his fastest time. Things looking good for Scotty in the 5.43, but that is the end of the practice session. And we'll get ready to go to the grid for what's a very packed grid here. We've got 39 drivers in the midst of this this grid, so it's going to be packed like sardines around the Belle Isle Street circuit. Starting, go on.
Like some of the other tracks in North America, it's not really designed for a standing start either, so half of the field will kind of be around the kink on the front straight when we get our standing start. You think of Daytona and some others like that, where you can tell the circuit's not completely designed for standing start grid slots, but that's what we will have.
Indeed we will, and starting on the first of those is going to be Darren Lobb in car number 99. Angus Lawford will be joining him on the front row in the Project 36 car. Two Mustangs on the front row for the first time in a long time, if not ever, here in V8SCOPS. Riley Bilson, Billy Mole on row 2. We have Scott Gamble starting in 5th place alongside Kenneth Latter to round out the 3rd row of the grid. Troy Stonestreet is going to start in 7th spot, starting alongside Jordan Siberis. And Sebastian Vandel, who ran 2nd in practice, will round out our top 10 with Russell Pepperell alongside.
Next row, James Chastanov starts 11th with Kane Kugamiya in 12th. And then it looks like Ricky Durham in 13th and Lockhart Brownlee in 14th. Scott Mackay, well, incredibly strong in that warm-up session, will be starting from 15th on the grid for this short race, with Stephen Banks in 16th. Jack Snove in 17th with Chris Ireland in 18th. And the next row has Jared Lamprey and Matthew Pluck.
Jamie Dyke racing injured tonight with some wrist problems alongside Ben Smith on row 11. Blake Fitzpatrick going to be starting 23rd alongside Kevin Norman on the row behind. Alan Dawson starts in 25th place. He's going to be joined by Thomas Hinds, who just came from winning the LMP2 class at the Majors 2.4 Hours of Le Mans. Tim Nicol and Jack Pickett will be 27th and 28th. Our top 30 rounded out by Tyler Strallo and William Brown.
Well, I saw Brock Feeney today. I'll see Will Brown tonight, apparently. Trent Bennett 31st, Bradley Sachs in 32nd on the grid, with Daniel Hall 33rd, Tyler Blackburn 34th. Deonta Graff will start from 35th place. Jamie McKnight will start from 36th. And then Sean Vandermeulen, Andrew Ritchie, and Scott McKenzie. Looks like our 39 car field is that safety car BMW M2 CS, something we're going to see potentially.
Oh, I think there's a very high chance of that. Still got some time left on the grid timer, so these cars are going to be sitting idle for a while. Still waiting on our pole sitter to take his spot on the grid. Of course, the left side of the grid, which is on our right from this camera view, will have the advantage coming into turn 1. There's going to be more rubber being laid down on that side of the circuit. So look out for potential fast start from drivers on that side of the grid. But we have seen, especially in supports, a few drivers who couldn't quite nail the standing start, and they ended up losing out quite a bit coming into the first turn. It's a very short run to turn 1 here at Belle Isle. It's more about the run you get out of turn 2. If you can survive the melee and find your space through turns 1 and 2 and get the power down, then you'll be able to make some passes at turn 3. But then the walls narrow up and the concrete canyon is entered. Just a few seconds remaining on the timer here. We'll see what Darren Lobb can do to hold off Angus Lawford here. What's their race pace like? We won't get a true idea of it until we're a couple of laps into this race. And that's it. Revs begin rising. A little bit of wheel spin there from the 910 of Jack Snov there as we are away. That's a slow start from the Orbit Drop Bear car. Lockhart Brownlee falling back there as we get into turn 1 for the first time, and already cars in the wall, and that's going to get the track almost half blocked. That's Troy Stone Street that's headed around there at turn 2, and a big pile up. Riley Bilson got into the wall. Big caution needed. See Blake Fitzpatrick, Jamie McKnight, Thomas Hinz, and William Brown also involved in that. Morford taking the lead from Darren Lobb, and Sebastian Vandel gets up the inside of Russell Pepperell. So we'll keep our eyes peeled here, as it looks like the safety car driver is in the car. I think we're going to have a safety car called here.
I mean, it's highly likely with how many damaged cars they were. Riley Bilson was the first to go in, as there was a little bit of contact there, and you saw quite a few drivers really struggling to get away. It's a pretty slippery surface around here. Safety car sounds like it's being called.
Yeah, certainly has. That will neutralise the race for the moment. It didn't take us long to get that dreaded safety car. Unfortunately, it is a little too early in the race to get your compulsory pit stop done. Should be able to come into pit lane from basically the end of lap 2 onwards, but I think that's still too early to have a chance of getting to the end on fuel. So the drivers will likely need to stay out unless they've got damage. Then it would make sense to come into the pits here. So around they come. Exercise caution through the first turn. Bilson still stricken on the outside of turn 1 exit there. And you'll see that Bilson was turned a little bit from contact with Scott Gamble. He ended up overcorrecting and flying into the outside wall, and there was nothing that the likes of Troy Stone Street and company could do.
Yeah, it seems like some cold tires happening there as well. We're going to get another look at it, but the late nose into turn 1, a tiny bit of contact, but it just seems like everyone's really struggling for grip. It's kind of like a half concrete type of thing there. Slide and a snap, and then all hell breaks loose, of course, in the background, and a couple of big casualties from it. Tyler Strello, Alan Dawson, Thomas Hinz, Brown, and then of course the drivers that are either on pit lane or had to tow or will try and tow. Blake Fitz, Riley Bilson, Troy Stone Street.
See the overhead view here, focusing on Bilson. He got a bit of a slow getaway from the start-finish line. You saw that Gamble actually got a lightning start there, and he tried to find the space. Could have been room to the inside, but Bilson turned in and the door rapidly closed. You see that Kane Kugamiya was another one of the cars who got massively involved in that. Stone Street was first on the scene. He got spun around, and then Kugamiya just went head-on into him.
Live, we're behind safety car. Angus Lawford leads this one, so that's a good job from him. That getaway and the short amount of racing that we did have. Should be leading right now.
It was all about the getaway from the start-finish line, wasn't it? Lawford was very much able to jet past Darren Lobb on the way in there. And Billy Mole has come out of this one very nicely too. He started 4th and he runs in 3rd. It's a fairly solid start. Of the drivers who gained the most places, I think James Chastaneuf probably one of them here, from 11th to 7th. And we also saw some big jumps up from Christopher Ireland as well, up from 18th to 12th. Matthew Pluck up quite a few places as well, to 15th from 20th. And drivers further back in the field who are able to pick their way through the carnage. Tyler Blackburn, Andrew Ritchie and Sean Vandermeulen gaining a lot of places, as well as just about everyone around them there.
Well, you know how the 51 did it. It was a plucky upstart.
Yeah. There we go. That's the Haynes pun.
That's like a triple pun there, man. I tried too hard on that. Too many things in the oven at once.
Yeah, and unfortunately, that's half the reason the track got blocked there. I'm not sure what car that is.
Oh, and then the wheels tangle there horribly as well.
That's the 686 of Blake Fitzpatrick that also went rather deep into turn 1 and got himself spun around in the area of Bilson. And apparently this continues here. This is him and William Brown. Oh dear. Oh god, that's Stone Street, who got it rolling, but evidently running a bit too slow into turn 3 for...
Well, he's offline there, but they're trying to battle each other, trying to take the inside line in the battle that they've got, and they drive into him offline.
That incident is under review from race control, so...
At least that's how it looks from on high.
So potentially a penalty going someone's way from this.
He's trying to stay offline, for sure, here. Relatively.
I don't think anyone anticipated where the cars were going to be at that point. Obviously Fitzpatrick was going defensive versus Brown, and he wanted to try and protect the inside, but then he would have seen Stone Street going slow up ahead of him and realized that he couldn't exactly move left to go around him because Brown was still there.
Safety car's pulling away. We're about to get underway.
All right, this is the opportunity for Darren Lobb to fight back against Angus Lawford. Start of lap 4. We're going to have a rapidly shortened race here as Angus Lawford puts the power down and leads us away for the green flag once again here at Belle Isle. The safety car now pulling into their pit box and leaving the rest of them to fight their way around this brutal circuit. Lobb started on pole position. He wants that P1 back, but it's a much more controlled getaway here with the rolling start behind the safety car. Move further back there. Looks like Sebastian Vandel was trying to get around James Chastaneuf, but couldn't get it done. Through the apex of turn 3, bit faster than it looks this particular corner. All running single file through there. Nice and sedate. At least that's the way it looks. A little bit deep there from, I think that was Brown at the very back of the field. Out of turn 6 they come. And thus far, it looks like the top 2 starting to break away. Vandel, meanwhile, succeeding in getting past Chastaneuf for 7th place.
And with that safety car restart, we get the rolling start that this track is significantly more designed for. And it just gives everyone a slightly more equal start, slightly better spaced. Get underway. A few drivers pressing to gain some more positions as they got to the end of the strand on the back straight. You said not much passing happens into turn 11, but I've seen so many people try to just stay close through the double left-handers and then make a late dive to the inside of that right-hander. It can work, but only with the element of surprise and with someone who then decides they want to give you the space.
Yeah, the problem with turn 11 as well is it's so tight, and the shape of the road at that section, there's a lot of humps in it. You need to make sure that you have the front end grip to pull it off. It's very easy to run deep. On board here with Matthew Pluck as he tries to find his way back through. He's up 5 places at the moment, looking at Ricky Durham up in front of him. And he's got the 9-10 just behind. So we'll see what Jax will be able to do to catch up there. For the moment, looks like everyone's just holding station in the midfield. Hard to pass around here, particularly in this staircase section from turns 4 to 6.
Very different gear stack, I noticed from the onboard there, than what you'd expect at Daytona or Bathurst. With the race lead here, Darren Lobb's going to try to put some pressure on Lawford.
Side by side, Lawford defensive into turn 7 with the cutback from Lobb. Lawford has to give room around the outside there. This is giving a big chance to Billy Mole, catching back up to our 2 leaders, putting himself in contention for the win here. And Mole doesn't just need to think about these guys ahead of him, he needs to think about Gamble right behind him as well. Gamble, of course, may very well have a penalty hanging over his head for the contact that brought out the safety car. Side by side through the last couple of turns. That's certainly one place to get it done. And it looks like Lawford may stand to lose 2nd place as well. But Billy Mole unable to get his car in the right spot to take advantage. Gamble's right in it too. Remember, the top 3 from Split 2 have the opportunity to race in Split 1 later tonight. Everyone behind Billy Mole is going to want that.
side by side through some sections of track that we don't normally see. It very exciting stuff, and they keep it off the walls for the most part. Darren Lobb took that lead, but you've seen how much it's compressed the rest of the field. The new fastest lap of the race goes to 7th place. Sebastian Varndell in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, all just right on top of each other. Is going to make, when we get to that compulsory pit stop window, whenever they start making those stops, when they think they can stop and get to the end, they're getting that absolutely critical down to the 10th of a second. So important to try to get inside of that top 3 that you get your pit stop exactly right.
The bumps coming down the back stretch here. The cars are rocking about at this point of the racetrack. Varndell a little wide coming into turn 7 there, and I think he got a bit of a hurry up from behind as well. Still got James Chastaneuf right on the back of him, but he sees it all ahead of him. Does Sebastian. And a bit of a defense there from the Mustang coming into turn 11. That was Saberis keeping Varndell behind him there. Interesting to see that Race Control have made a decision on the safety car causing contact. Netcode apparently between Bilson and Gamble. So no penalty for Scott in the 5-4-3. He can continue on.
Certainly did say it looked cold tyres, it looked a little odd, it didn't look like massive contact. It looked like pretty significant contact.
With the wall, potentially, for Sebastian Varndell. Also getting the rear end lit up coming out of turn 2. It's very easy to do in cars as powerful as these. Jordan Saberis under a lot of pressure into turn 4, starting to lose touch with Kenneth Latter up ahead. And you can tell here that Varndell is certainly looking quicker at this point. He just needs to nail the exit of turn 6. Have a look at this slow-mo here. Varndell just getting the rear end lit up a little bit. Coming out of turn 2, and I think he just avoided getting the wall there. Chastaneuf definitely did make contact with the wall.
Yeah, Chastaneuf looked like he picked up a bit of understeer as he came over the bridge there, and it just washed out, and he also gave a good clip of the wall. I mean, everyone will do it a little bit at some point, but Chasty might have used up his get out of jail free as far as a lucky hit that doesn't cause too much damage.
Yeah, you only get so many of those around here. It's perhaps the most brutal of the very few street circuits that are on iRacing. Into the pits comes Varndell. He's going to be taking his compulsory stop early. Did he slow down for the pits in time is the question.
Yep.
Looks like he did. No black flag to his name. He's going to be joined in the pits by Stephen Banks, Jack Pickett and Tyler Blackburn. First drivers to make their way for their compulsory stop here.
64 kilometers an hour is the pit lane speed limit as well, so 40 miles an hour is what you got to slow down to, lest those police who do their driver training in the paddock have a word with you.
Lockhart Brownlee was actually the first driver to take his compulsory pit stop, and no surprise there, he ended up getting involved in some of the bish bash bosh out of turn 1 and 2. He will remain behind Varndell though, so Sebastian in the 458 leads the cars that have pitted. We'll see how that works out for him here in the long term, because keeping an eye on the track temperature, it's not too hot there. 32 Celsius on the concrete at the moment, but the undercut should still be strong.
Yeah, because you're working the tyres plenty around here, even if the speeds aren't quite as significant as some other race tracks, some other more permanent tracks. Still just working the tyres a lot in the traction zones. Everyone's running really short gears, so they can spin those tyres up so quickly, so easily if they're not careful. And so just getting new tyres means getting cooler tyres, means probably 1 or 2 good laps of undercut, even if it's also just a bit of the clear air is going to help you. Chastaneuf is going to come in, and so will Matt Pluck. You've got a few more drivers reacting to what Varndell was doing, I think. They saw the pace he had, they see the strategy he's going for, and they'll take a little bit of that. Thank you very much.
They will indeed. Ben Smith, Trent Bennett and Andrew Ritchie also coming into the lane. Speaking of clear air, Darren Lobb has the clearest air of all, and he is skipping away at the front of the field, running 0.3 of a second faster than Angus Lawford and everyone behind him.
We're
as
seeing tyres, no tyres stops here. That's the difference. So, Varndale 6 seconds, no tyres. Brownlee 7 seconds, no tyres. Chastanov 10 seconds, new tyres. This is a common thing in some of these shorter races where the fuel drop is actually just a little bit shorter than the time to change all 4 tyres. It's not completely covered for free. You've got to make a decision for track position versus fresh tyres.
Yeah, you absolutely do. Oh, there's a problem for Jordan Siberis. He's dropping from the server as you see the message up the top. Race Control have given a license point penalty to Blake Fitzpatrick for running into Alan Dawson, lap 1, turn 1. That's what we caught on the blimp camera on replay. So Blake's night is going to get a little bit worse there.
This is the tyres versus no tyres situation right here. Brownlee with Chastanov behind, who's gone for 4 new tyres, but it's just a splash of fuel for Brownlee. It's gotten him this track position here a little bit nicely, but now you see how much pressure he's going to be under from an aggressive Chastanov. Here's a replay. It's not pleasant viewing.
Oh, William Brown looks like trying to get up the inside of one of the other Mustangs there. And, oh dear, it just gets even worse at turn 4. Round they go. Oh, good incident avoidance from the other cars involved in that, but I think William Brown will be feeling a little sheepish after that. He's actually lost his entire front end from further contact out of turn 6 after he got in it with Trent Bennett.
Chastanov's had an issue while we looked away from him?
Maybe. Yes. Yeah. He's also lost a position to Stephen Banks. Now under pressure from Matthew Pluck. Unsure exactly what's going on there for Shasty. Tried to get it back here from Brownlee. But, oh dear. Yeah, that move wasn't going to work in any universe, I think. Brownlee was able to get away with it, and so was James, up to a point, but yeah, you don't often see passes at that section of the circuit, and that's why.
So Lawford briefly had that lead. Now he's 1.5 seconds behind Darren Lobb. He had a bit of a train going behind him, and so pitting out of that group goes Billy Mole, while Scott Gamble and Ken Latta remain behind.
Kugamia, Durham, and Nova are also going to find their way into the lane behind. It's following the general strategy that I'd expect here, as Brownlee's been losing pace here, and now Stephen Banks right on the back of him. The race is following that pattern, isn't it? That the drivers in the midfield and further back are often the ones to pit first because they can benefit from the undercut, but the drivers up the front, they want to stay out as long as they can to avoid coming out in traffic.
I'm seeing quite a significant difference, cars with tyres and cars that don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Brownlee might also be nursing a bit of damage. Around the outside is very, very gutsy.
Just enough space at the exit of turn 4 for that one, but entry to turn 5, entry to turn 4, sorry, it was the exit of turn 3. Yeah, Chastanov having quite a bit of trouble here, actually getting up to pace on those new tyres. Stephen Banks also taking tyres in the stop. Goodness, just catching the grass there, and man, I haven't seen that kind of wheel work in a very long time. I was lucky that
it's an act for the new Karate Kid, isn't it?
Yeah. Lightning fast hands for James Chastanov. Kenneth Latta is the next car to come into the lane from 5th place. And
so I think that Mole is the highest running car at the moment that did take tyres. So he might even catch up to Varndale up here as well. So this is a driver whose pace you want to keep an eye on, because then you've got drivers like Lobb and Lawford and Latta soon to pit. Drivers that could be in the top 3. Latta has clearly gone no tyres here.
How's that going to compare here? He comes out just ahead of Sebastian Varndale. Fitzpatrick getting a second license point penalty for the contact with Troy Stone Street at this corner here. And yeah, he's coming. He is gaining on these guys.
He's overshot. He's down the runner.
No! Oh no! Oh, Billy Mole was probably the best placed on those tyres, but he's not going to be able to take advantage. More carnage around him as the side-by-side continues between Latter and Vandel. Sebastian round the outside gets the power down early and will likely complete the move at turn 7. There's going to be a blend to the left before they get to the braking zone, and he should get ahead of Latter there, but Kenneth is a big fighter, and he's going to get up the inside at 7 here. They can both just avoid getting into the tyre bundles, and I think Vandel's going to have to yield for now.
Costing them a little bit of time, but Mole, the driver that could have put pressure on him. What are we going to see down here at turn 3? Presumably in too deep, big lock-up. There it goes. Yeah, rear locking. He can't turn in because of rear locking.
Yeah, happens quite easily in these cars. If you don't time the blips of the throttle right on the downshifts, the rears just lock up completely. There's a lock differential in these cars, which just complicates matters further. Incident on lap 9 involving cars 96 and 069. Lawford, the next car to come out of the pits there, and he comes out behind Latter and Vandel, but Lawford also took tyres. He's going to have freshies on it as Vandel dives up the inside of Latter. Has he gone too deep at turn 3? Not quite, but Latter's going to get him right back on the exit.
Oh, it's snakes and ladders.
Oh, God. Ugh. There we go. They pass each other back again and again and again. Vandel goes deep into turn 6 this time to try and stay ahead of Latter, but all of this is just benefiting Angus Lawford, who is already on the pace here on those fresh tyres. The 96 and the 069, that's William Brown and Trent Bennett, the incident that we saw on replay. And Bennett himself escaped without asking permission from race control to do so, so he won't be allowed to return to the circuit.
Even with some of this battling, the drivers that have pitted and taken new tyres are undercutting Darren Lobb, who's staying out in the race lead. So there's a chance that Lawford undercuts Darren Lobb the way that it's going at the moment. Lawford's got those new tyres. He's just ranging up to the back of some quick drivers in Vandel and Latter. We haven't had Lobb leading the race pit yet, and his tyres are beginning to become a bit hot. The grip's going away from him.
Out comes Russell Pepperell right alongside this battle once again. Pepperell did not take tyres either, and it's a very short pit stop for Russell.
Fuel.
Yeah, only 5 seconds spent in the box there for Russell. Does he have the fuel to make it to the end is the question. He's going to keep Lawford behind him for now, but Angus, with the benefit of that fresh rubber, will surely be able to get the exit out of turn 6 and get past him. We saw Chris Ireland get a black flag. He sped into pit lane, and he's decided to retire from the race as a result of that. It's a brutal penalty for speeding into pit lane. You have to spend upwards of 40 seconds extra in the pit box. Well, this turned into a huge battle for 10th here. All of these drivers have already taken pit stops. Lockhart Brownlee leading Chastaneuf, Durham and Banks, who all have fresh tyres. Matthew Pluck, 9.8 seconds. I think he might have taken tyres as well, just really nailed the run into the box. And we have Jack Snove and Jared Lamprey in the midst of all of this as well. This is going to get super intense here. Brownlee will be struggling on that rubber, and this will just be compressing everyone behind him. If I'm in Matthew Pluck's position, I wouldn't know what to do.
I mean, you're desperately hoping, I think, that Chastaneuf or someone is able to clear Lockhart Brownlee. Brownlee's driving incredibly well, placing his cars in ways that Chastaneuf can't just dive down the inside wherever he would please. And Chastaneuf himself been struggling with the traction in a couple of these places, kicking the tail out. But now it's Brownlee's time to do that, and he feels defensive.
Into turn 3 they come. Chastaneuf on the racing line, more rubber laid down there, but can't quite get past the Orbit Drop Bear Camaro. Stephen Banks also defending from Matthew Pluck, so they find their way through turn 4. Still waiting on pit stops from our top 4 drivers.
Oh no!
Oh dear, oh no, that's massive. Benjamin Smith and Billy Mole, it looks like, coming together there. And careful on the turnaround. Oh, that just makes things worse for Mole. Gets a second whack as Smith tried to turn his car around.
Gamble jumps into the pit lane. Darren Lobb's still out.
This could be a difference maker here. Is race control going to bring out another safety car with only 4 laps remaining? Oh, that's big there. Looks like Daniel Hall that found the tyre bundle at turn 7. The ERT Camaro now missing its front bumper. So Scott Gamble, Jamie Dyke and Tim Nicol, 3 of the last 4 cars that have remained out. The safety car has, yes, been called. Oh, this might be bad news for Darren Lobb.
Yeah, so where's the safety car? When does it catch Darren Lobb? And does it stop him racing around to the pit entry? There's the safety car. Darren Lobb's halfway round the lap. So Darren Lobb can go to pit entry rather than go to the pit lane. It's if he catches anyone a lap down or any cars that he can't pass because we're under safety car and he can't make any passes. Yeah, I think Darren Lobb will just get away with this.
Very lucky.
He will not need to take much fuel at all.
No, it's only a very short little splash that Darren Lobb is going to need. Scott Gamble and Scott Gamble and who was the other car that was around there? Tim Nicol. Nicol spent quite a bit of time in pit lane. He's come back out in 18th. This is how the incident happened. Smith just got loose and Billy Mole unfortunately got involved in that. And too much damage for Billy Mole, who started in 4th place. Such a shame for him, not only running deep in turn 3, but then having that happen to you later on.
Lob stop. 4 seconds, 5 seconds, 6 seconds. Where's Gamble on track? Just back there.
Turn 1.
Yeah, Lob keep this race lead.
There we go then. They'll immediately be caught. They'll immediately catch the safety car. And considering that next time by, it'll be 2 laps to go, surely this will be a very short safety car period. Billy Mole is still out there on circuit, hasn't been given permission to tow just yet. And looks like William Brown is the next driver to receive a license point penalty for his contact with Trent Bennett. A lot of those penalties being handed out here tonight, and I would expect a few more coming out of Split 1. This track tends to bring out those kinds of incidents.
So the difference between old tyres and new tyres, it's been significant as far as clean air pace, but it's not been enough to make overtaking easy here. Well, overtaking is never easy here. So you look at your top 3 and they're all drivers that took fuel only, took 6-second pit stops for fuel instead of 10-second pit stops for new tyres. Angus Lawford, who led this race at one point, highest running car that we think did take tyres, down in 6th. That's down from the 1st and 2nd that he had occupied in the early phases of this race.
Yeah, so it turns out with such a short race on hand here, going tyre free in the pit stop was the way to go. I mean, the problem for Lawford, I guess, is that he, the safety car, I mean, I guess in a way the safety car's come out at a good time for Lawford because it's compressed the field ahead of him. He's going to have all of those cars right up in front who will be struggling on the older rubber, and he might be able to make some moves. But at the same time, I think he would have preferred it to be green to the end so that he could continue to make use of that fresh rubber right now.
And so much of it seems to be temperature in the rear tyres, which will have cooled off with the safety car for everyone, even if they're old tyres.
Safety car is not pulling away just yet. We're going to be going for one more lap around here.
I saw a sweet looking BMW M2 of this generation at Queensland Raceway today. Hello, safety car driver.
Dan Stevens coming from racing in the Majors series earlier today as well. Probably grateful to just have a chill time touring around in this BMW.
Ah, that's the winged headrest of his seat and not a turban.
No, yeah, correct.
The beard would suit, I'm telling you.
It certainly would.
Think about it, man. Style.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sun's safe too. The sun's a deadly laser.
Absolutely is. I'm thinking about the deadly laser of his gear display off there to his right. Stevens has one of the most kitted out rigs that we've seen in the AusNZ community on Zoom. And his view will continue to be that as he
Love the cue ball shifter.
Yeah, that's really cool. And he's got bezel remover strips on his screens as well, from what I can see. I remember seeing those before.
I think he's got the control panel to his left to start nuclear war.
Mm.
You just got to flip the switches in the right order and have someone else in the other room also turn the key at the same time, and bada bing, bada boom, unsafety car.
Does Dan Steven have the codes, is the question. Well, safety car is going to come in at the end of this lap, and we're going to have a one-lap sprint to the end here at Belle Isle for V8SCOPS Split 2. Lob, Gamble, and Vandel, your top three, and if they stay in that order, they will move into Split 1 later on tonight. But Latta, Pepperell, Lawford, Kugamiya as well, and everyone behind them will be looking to ruin that party. Away pulls Stevens as they make their way down to the final two proper corners on the lap here. And it will be time shortly for Darren Lobb to put the power down here, leading the restart. But Evolution Racing Team's Scott Gamble right behind him and waiting for that opportunity. Away goes Darren Lobb. Green flag flies. And we only have 3.78 kilometers of racing left to go here in this short and tight race.
Well, if it wasn't already the last lap because of 19 laps, it'd be the last lap because we're actually run out of time as well. So perfect between the laps and the time, and perfect restart from Darren Lobb.
Yeah, absolutely. He executed that very well. Gamble has no answer for him coming into turn 3. But Pepperell defensive versus Angus Lawford and Kane Kugamiya, the drivers in the top 10, along with Chastaneuf, who have fresh tyres on the cars. Where will we see them move? Chastaneuf could be under pressure from Brownlee, and Durham and Banks. Easy does it. Banks is going to lose the position to Matthew Pluck, maybe. Out of the corner, Pluck gets the better momentum, and Jack Snove just behind them will look to join that party too. Vandel continuing to hold on to third, and it looks like the best passing opportunities have vanished now for Angus Lawford. So now it's just up to them to negotiate the final few corners. Any mistake here could prove deadly, as that's Benjamin Smith, I believe, who's gone off the track a little bit at their turn 7. No, it's Tyler Blackburn. But only one more corner to go for Darren Lobb, Scott Gamble, and Sebastian Vandel. They will be your top three. Lobb starting on pole, responding to the goings-on perfectly. They will all move up into Split 1. Congratulations to our top three. How good is the run from Vandel, up 6 positions? Russell Pepperell gets a top 5 after starting 10th, and Jamie Dyke gaining 13 positions to finish in 8th. What a race.
In a no safety car situation, that 4-tyre change might have been able to work out, but staccato as this race was, track position was absolute king, and that's where you've seen a lot of the big gainers come from drivers with very short fuel-only pit stop times, like Lobb, Gamble, Vandel, and a few of those others that have gained big time, like Jamie Dyke from 21st to 8th. This is the results as they've crossed the line.
Yeah, so big news once we get down to the back of the top 10. But first, Lob, Gamble, and Varndell, your top 3, with Latter and Pepperell rounding out your top 5. Then it's Lawford, Cougamere, and Dyke. Shastanerf, though, the pass that he made on Lockhart Brownlee on the final lap, it's not the pass on the final lap. It was all the way back on lap 9 there was contact between Shastanerf and Brownlee. James has been given a 5-second penalty for that. So he will finish outside the top 10 in the end. Lockhart Brownlee will be promoted to 9th as a result, and Ricky Durham will round out your top 10 there.
11th across the line. Yeah, Ricky Durham, and then Matthew Pluck, Stephen Banks, Jack Nov, Jared Lamprey, Scott Mackay, Dion DeGraff, Tim Nicol, Kevin Norman, and Thomas Hinds. Biggest gainer in that group, Dion DeGraff. I'm doing maths in my head, 35th to 17th. Huge number of positions gained from the very, very tail of the field, right solidly into the mid-pack.
Yeah, 18 positions gained for him. It will be 19 when the penalty for Shastanerf is applied. James will be classified 18th at the end of it. So, Daniel Hall with a crash, finishing 21st. Alan Dawson, Jamie McKnight, and Sean Vandermeulen running at your top 24. Brad Sachs is going to finish in 25th, and then we had a long list of cars that had big issues in this race. Ben Smith, Tyler Strelo, Andrew Ritchie, Jack Pickett, and Tyler Blackburn round out your top 30, and they are your last finishers. And we get into retirement territory. Billy Mole, unfortunately, bringing out the last safety car from his contact with Benjamin Smith. Chris Ireland retired after getting a penalty for speeding in pit lane. William Brown retired. So did Siberis. Actually, Siberis dropped from the server. Trent Bennett was crashed out. Dan Stevens in the safety car actually classified ahead of Stone Street, Bilson, Fitzpatrick, and McKenzie, who did not make it through the lap 1, turn 2 carnage. And that is going to be your field for V8SCOPS Split 2. In the end, a very interesting race that is on for us here. Not just in Split 2, but in Split 1 yet to come. Stay with us here on SimSpeed TV. We'll be back again very soon.
It is feature time in Tulsa. Let's go green.
He's got the run, but is it enough? It's a drag race to the finish. Culver goes from third to first in the last quarter. Experience the world's most legendary racing events with iRacing. iRacing special events allow any member to compete in full-length multiplayer races based on some of the biggest events in motorsports all year round. Compete in virtual endurance races, such as the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, and the Nürburgring 24 Hours. Take on some of the toughest races on the NASCAR calendar, such as the Daytona 500 and the Coke 600. We have races from disciplines across the racing world, from the Indy 500 to the Chili Bowl, from the Bathurst 1000 to the Crandon Championship. Our endurance special events utilize iRacing's team feature, where members can sign up and race together on their own team, swapping drivers throughout the race. Other events use iRacing Super Sessions, where you're not only racing against those on track, but against everyone taking part. As every race progresses, watch and feel the track change, with progressive time of day, dynamic weather and rain, and dynamic track debris and surface changes. Take on your favorite discipline, or try a brand new racing challenge with our biggest races of the year, the iRacing Special Events. Learn more at iracing.com/special-events.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
You're watching SimSpeed TV, round 5 of the V8SCOPS series for 2025. Split 2. We came away with a lot of fear in our hearts for this racetrack. It was a frenetic race that Split 2 had, and now we get to do the same but double the length for Split 1. 40 laps ahead of us after the qualifying session, which we're about to go into. If you're just joining us, hello, I'm Reese Gardner. David Haynes is alongside me in the comms box, and Jay Kennedy is producing behind the scenes. Well, David, I know one thing to expect from Split 1, and that is chaos.
I'd say fair chance. We'll take a look at the track again. One that I briefly visited, thought it was pretty cool. Thought Detroit's better than the reputation. There are worse places to go. In summer, in winter, I simply wouldn't. I'm not built for that. You're a Perthian, simply not built for the winter and this river freezing over either. But in summer, simply gorgeous. Green, long days, and fast race cars.
Absolutely. This track, of course, is no longer in use in the real world. The final time that motorsport went here was 2022, but iRacing was able to get in there and scan the track before that happened, so we can race on it potentially forever in the digital realm. 14 corners, and all of them have some kind of danger associated with them. It's a rather difficult track, and the concrete surface from the exit of turn 3 all the way back around to the entry to turn 1 is rather difficult, to say the least. It's going to do a number on the tyres, and the Split 1 drivers will need to be very careful of how they employ the strategy here today. The championship standings coming into this round. The most recent round of the championship throwing up a few curveballs, a few surprises, as we always expect at every single round of V8SCOPS. Jake Maloney leads the championship with Madison Down in second place. Trans-Tasman Racing up the top. Rayan Leonage still third place in the championship, ahead of the reigning champion, James Scott, who has been able to get some good results on the board after the first couple of rounds didn't quite go his way. Brady Myers and Jake Burton 5th and 6th. Zach Rattray White still very much in the mix. You can say the same for Jordan Ross as well. Kurt Stenberg and Emily Jones makes two Trans-Tasman duos bookending the top 10 here, David.
Yeah, indeed. So certainly close enough for first and second, then a bit of a gap to third with the rest of the standings there. So for Maloney, that's a little bit of a weight to bear to try to keep that championship lead going this stage of the season. And we're about to see how it'll play out for this race. So drivers sort of in a practice warm-up situation right now before they go to the two qualifying groups. First out on track will be the 16 to 32nd place pre-qualified drivers, plus our top three from Split 2 that had just been promoted. I see Sebastian Gondel out there doing a little bit of warm-up for himself, joined by Darren Lobb. And then your sort of top 15 drivers get to go out afterwards in the second qualifying group.
And then we go for a multi-lap race with 2 compulsory pit stops. 62% fuel tank cap means that you will not be able to make it to the end without pitting at least once, but the second pit stop may very well be shorter. And of course, rules for V8SCOPS over the last year or so dictate that you don't have to take tyres in a pit stop. In fact, you barely even have to take service at all. You just got to come to a stop, go up on the jacks in your pit box, and then you can get going again. So we might see a few drivers try something interesting here at this difficult street circuit. You have between laps 2 and 39 to take that compulsory stop. Only
You wonder if any of the drivers, any of the teams like Trans-Tasman Racing, took note of the Racing Bulls strategy at Monaco the other weekend. For a race like this with 2 compulsory stops. Wink, wink.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Drivers making their final preparations before dumping the fuel from the cars, getting the qualifying setup loaded, and trying to go as fast as they can around Detroit, Belle Isle. The weather is around about the same from what we saw in Split 2. The track temperature's only gone up by a single degree, but we do have some pretty gusty winds coming from the northwest, about 13-14 k's an hour. Seems that that's a bit of a tailwind through turns 1 and 2. Crosswinds in the back half of the lap shouldn't affect these cars too much. The average speed is quite low, and these cars obviously aren't very aero dependent, so that's still worth keeping in mind just in case. But yeah, reasonable track temperatures. Tires will get up to temp very quick, but at the same time, when they're sliding around on this concrete surface, it'll make things a little bit more difficult to keep a hold of them. One thing that I neglected to mention at the start of this broadcast, and I said it in supports on Friday, the concrete surface actually acts a bit differently to asphalt, because asphalt is obviously rougher and more porous than concrete is. So you lay rubber down on tarmac, it will sort of sink in and sort of be absorbed by the surface. With concrete, the rubber just sits on top.
Interesting. Yeah, they've got the concrete surface to the Pacific motorway between Brisbane and Gold Coast. So I'll look at that very closely next time I have to go to the Gold Coast. About how that one works. I think it's sort of grooved in a way to try to improve traction and drainage and all of those considerations and concerns. But yeah, it's an odd circuit. It is bumpy in a couple of places. Sometimes because it's a bridge over a creek or a water. Other times it's just because it's just bumpy.
Yeah, it's not the best maintained surface, but we like that.
The freeze thaw, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. You know, Detroit's in a part of the United States that experiences bitterly cold winters, and yeah, all of the thermal changes over the year can really do a number on it. I think that might be why there's so many concrete roads in that part of the world, just because concrete might deal with it a little better than asphalt does. In any case, the checkered flag has fallen in practice, and we'll be able to get out in just a few short moments for the qualifying session. Position 16 to 32 in pre-qualifying, plus the top 3 from Split 2.
What is that a statue of?
Yeah, a claw off an eagle, apparently.
Wow. Okay. Cars are out on track.
Yes. We'll go from birds to horses, because the Mustang of Kobe Jones is leading the way out of pit lane.
And the horse statue down the end past the runoff of turn 3, I very clearly recognize as a horse. Very distinctive horse-shaped statue. So all sorts happening here. We sort of often look at this first qualifying group and say, well, how far up the outright order can these drivers go? And we nearly, well, it felt like we nearly had a driver from Group 1 take the outright pole at Sebring before they ended up dropping 1 or 2. But this could be an interesting session. There could be a couple of standouts. You've got Vondel out on track as well in this group. Some of those drivers trying to put on a show who've been promoted from Split 2.
Indeed. And, well, obviously iRacing puts a little Easter egg in every one of their tracks. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Steve Myers are present at every track in iRacing. And Jay had been struggling to find them. Well, he's found them.
Oh, they're at the top of the slippery dip.
They are. That's going to be a massive drop down for the both of them. Hopefully hopefully their insurance has worked out.
The slide is actually modelled on the fortunes of DEI, the motorsports team.
Fair enough. I thought it was
There's the
modelled
horse.
off. I thought it was modelled off the surface of the track, with how bumpy and wavy it is. Just outside turn 3. And there goes Kobe Jones on his first hot lap around Belle Island qualifying. Rear end kicks out a bit into turn 4, but you need a car that rotates well for this circuit. Every corner here is sharp in some fashion, so if you have a stable front end, one that responds well, and a rear end that you can kick into a slide if you need to, then it'll work out for you. But I don't think that lap's going to be valid, because I think I just saw Jones clip the wall out of turn 6. That might be a 0x.
So virtually from Split 2 to this Split 1, it's sort of gone across a day, and we're in the midday now, and it's much hotter track temperature, 37 Celsius, and for Kobe Jones, it sure looks it. This car is moving around all sorts. In the braking zones, trying to carry speed through the corners, trying to get to traction. It was all out of whack, and it's not like it's just him. Everyone else seems to be sort of struggling for a bit of that grip at the moment. We'll get the first time, see if the tyres can push for another one. Sure looks a bit of a tyre killer, moving around a lot on this surface. The surface is hot, and then building a lot of heat into those tyres that really have a thermal limit to them as well. So I think you won't get too many push laps out of one set of tyres for this track, this temperature, and these cars.
Well, that was a valid lap for Kobe Jones, a 1:31.6, but it's immediately being eclipsed. Kuznetsov going to the top, Teo Sorono and Brian Borg rounding out your top 3, and then Ryan Campbell will go to second place in car number 92. Tom Freer sets his first time on the board, goes 7th fastest. Brett Loxton to 13th. Emily Jones in Group 2 for this one, running 10th in the championship, and well, for Trans-Tasman Racing, she is on the provisional front row, but only in Group 2, remember. We'll have to wait and see how the Group 1 times go. And this is not the only opportunity that the drivers are going to get to set a lap. They have until the 20-minute mark to set their times.
Yeah, and if you were watching sort of F2 or F3 qualifying from Monaco, this is not that. It's based on the outright times here. There's no sort of Group 1, Group 2 snake split going on where the pole sitter from this group starts on, P2. It's, no, if your time's good enough, anyone from this group can be in the top, but conversely, if Group 2 goes way faster, the top 5 from this group could start sort of 17th, 18th, 19th, etc. So your outright times matter. You've got to push for every thousandth of a second. You don't know what the drivers later on in the session or in the other group might be able to do.
Yeah, main reason V8SCOPS runs split qualifying is just due to space out on the racetrack. It was originally introduced by Oceanic Sim Racing a couple of years ago when they were the administrators of V8SCOPS, because there was, in particular, around at the Red Bull Ring, which I believe was having some issues with drivers finding space to get started for a hot lap at the end of qualifying. If anyone remembers the 2019 Italian Grand Prix, what happened at the end of that qualifying session, a pretty similar thing happened. And there's an awful lot of entrants for V8SCOPS, about twice as many cars as a Formula 1 grid start V8SCOPS any given day. So They want to make sure that everyone has the requisite space out on the racetrack, and so they are sent out in 2 separate groups. But like David said, the overall times are what counts for the grid. There's nothing crazy going on behind the scenes. Just get everyone their reasonable opportunity here. Now,
Surprise, surprise. Everyone thought only 1 flying lap was what these tyres were up to. So we got that sort of first group of laps. Basically, everyone's gone in, put new tyres on. I think it's outlaps for almost everyone who isn't just one of the few exceptions like Darren Lobb.
Lobb, of course, our Split 2 winner just about 20 minutes ago. So we'll find our way in to the pits for the first time in this session and come to the start of another hot lap here for Sebastian Vandel, but he was struggling a little bit there, wasn't he? That's his first time, actually, of the session there. 131.8. That'll put him ahead of Loxton, Colangelo, and Kerr for the times being rounded out so far. 18 drivers setting times so far. Thomas Freeman grabbed a podium in an Acura GTP car in the Majors Le Mans 2.4 earlier today. Now he's jumped into his car 470 Ford Mustang supercar. We'll see what he can do to put himself amongst the top drivers in this second group. One of only 2
Jordan
drivers
Taylor,
who hasn't set a time yet, and actually one of them just did. Corey McFarlane to second place.
I was thinking Jordan Taylor is probably one of the few drivers I can think of who's driven an Acura prototype and a Ford supercar.
Yeah, they are few and far between. Freeman's first hot lap time here he is hoping for. Freeman's already had a couple of attempts at getting out there, but evidently small appointments with the wall and validating his laps, or maybe just not going fast enough for his liking and abandoning the lap. It's looking nice and clean up through turn 6. Get the power on as quickly as you can out of turn 6, because it widens here for the boulevard down the back end of the circuit. Kobe Jones and Tyson Broad just posting improvements. Jones went to 4th and Broad went to 9th. Then Jordan Ross spoils the party all over again and goes to 4th. Brady Baldwin gets it into 9th place for Synergy Sim Racing. Freeman will be looking at these times and thinking, how close am I going to be to those? Freeman's fastest time in practice, I believe. Let's have a look at the car 470 here. So Freeman's fastest lap from practice was a 133.2. So he needs to improve on that, but he won't on this lap. Into the pits he comes. He's still not happy.
Emily Jones also just aborted a flying lap and came in for another pit stop as well. So it's happening for a few drivers out there that sort of attempted a flying lap and then didn't complete it. So Tom Freer, Brett Loxton, plenty of the drivers. Nope, this lap's not improving. New set of tyres, give it another go. And so if you don't do that, you spend 2/3 of the time in laps that are unrepresentative, because it takes 1 out lap and 1 in lap to set 1 flying lap. Only 1 in every 3 laps materially matters. And so the pressure is intense in that way. And even on a short lap like this, the time will only give you a couple of flying laps to set your qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, the no escape rule has been a fixture in this series from the outset. You cannot just pull off to the side of the track in a qualifying or race session and press escape. You need to make it back to the pits under your own power and stop in the box. Borgie goes to P5. Brian should be very happy with a 131.4 there. Jones is back out for what's going to be maybe her final attempt at a lap here. 4 minutes and 15 seconds remaining in the Group 1 session. And, oh, a couple of tech issues there for the 098. Good exit from the final corner, though. Let's see what she can do on this lap.
So beginning the flying lap, sweeping turns 1 and 2, staying to the right through 1 to open up 2 completely, to get throttle, try to minimize the angle over that jump so that you can keep your speed heading down the straight. Tiny bit of toe there potentially, and getting right towards the top of 6th gear before the braking zone. Get distracted by the horse. You can leap a fair bit of the curb, not so much that it invalidates your lap, and as a course cut here in qualifying really matters, and getting heaps of that curb there. That's where I gave this racetrack just a little bit of Gold Coast Surface Paradise Street circuit about it, where you can climb a couple of the curbs around here, where there is some long enough straights, but the sight lines are not great, the traction is not great, and for Emily Jones, for a few of these sectors, it is trending that it could improve. It's trending well enough that I think she'll stay with this one unless we see a big mistake.
Turn 7 is one of those places where you can make a mistake, but she hit the curb very nicely, did Emily. Big bump right in the middle of turn 8, and then through 9 and 10. You just need to control the speed, keep the grip on the fronts, and turn in for the turn 11 hairpin. So hard to put the power down out of there. It's very bumpy on the exit, and then wait for your brake marker there around about the 400, 300 marker is where you want to start braking in these cars. Carry the speed through the last right-hander, and then it's a flat-out run to the line for Emily Jones. 131.358 to beat, and it is a 131.2. That puts her ahead of McFarlane and up into provisional second.
All of the quick drivers around here on this circuit, it doesn't look smooth. You've really, muscle, throw the steering around, a lot of angle and bounce and hop as you go around your laps. There are times with these cars and these drivers where they do look smooth when they're going quickly. At tracks like Watkins Glen, at Monza or any sort of permanent circuits, but not here. The way to drive the car and go quickly seems to be that really ragged style.
Well, yeah, because you're battling the track just as much as you're battling the car and yourself around here. You have to make those very quick movements to sort of respond to the bumps as you go over it. And throttle control is so important in these cars. But it's hard to do around here. Every single traction zone around this circuit has some kind of pitfall. Like, there's the bumps out of turn 11. There's the wall right here on the exit of the final proper turn. Exit of turn 2, you've got the bump over the bridge. Exit of turn 3, you've got the curb, the grass, and then the wall. And turn 6, you've got a wall and a tyre bundle greeting you. Yeah, every single turn here is treacherous.
Hot lap just come in from Rick Kuznetsov, doubles his advantage at the top of this group.
Wow.
Sets a purple sector or two along the way and just shaves another tenth or so off it, so that's great from Kuznetsov. Looking at Sorono now as he's most of the way, 3/4 of the way around a lap, but without any personal best sectors, this is not looking like it's going to set the world on fire, because it is an out lap.
Yes. Here goes Darren Lobb to begin his next lap here. And this will be his final chance here. 20 seconds remaining on the timer there. The session officially ends at 20 minutes to go in the full qualifying session. So Lobb got across the line just in time. Going to be seeing who is going to be able to make it across here. Doesn't look like anyone else is. Darren Lobb was the last car to make it across the line. The end of the session then. If you're currently on a hot lap, you can finish it. So we'll be able to see some potential improvements from many drivers around here. Waiting for Brian Borg to come out for his next time. He's going to commit to the end of the lap. Keep our eyes on Lobb. Brian Borg goes 131.4. No improvement from him there. Couple of hundredths off. Into the pits for Jordan Ross. Tyson Broad across the line. Does not set a valid time. And then we have Kobe Jones about to come across the line himself. 131.4. That is not going to be an improvement there for Kobe. And then that just leaves
Serrano.
Darren Lobb, I believe. Oh, yeah, Serrano as well. But
Will be
did Lobb
behind
just get to
Lobb.
the wall. Okay, 131.5 then for Lobb. That's going to improve his standing by 1 position. And Serrano is going to follow him in. Morris is going to follow him in there.
Serrano as well, though. You might have called it. The lap didn't go to plan. Was one of the last drivers with the opportunity to complete a lap, and it didn't quite work out. So that locks in that group.
Out comes Dan Stevens again to herd the cars home to the pits. Rick Kuznetsov setting the fastest time in Group 1 for 9.5 Sim Sports. Emily Jones putting herself in second. McFarlane, Ross and Borg your top 5. Some great performances there. Darren Lobb able to put himself provisional 10th after winning the Split 2 race. Only 0.4 of a second off Rick Kuznetsov's blazing 1 minute 31.2. We had 9 other drivers taking part in the session. Brady Baldwin just missing out on getting into the top 10 there, with Tyson Broad putting himself into 12th. Gamble also joining us there from Split 2, and as well as Vandel. They are 13th and 14th, with the field rounded out by Liam Kerr within a second of Rick Kuznetsov's time there, and that's no mean feat. So,
That first group is significantly bigger than Group 2 because it's half of the field, then the 3 that have been promoted. At least that's the vibe that I get from it. So it should be just a tiny bit more space for this next group. And the track temp, though, seems to have climbed a degree or so on them. Just a minute or so from those next cars coming out. And they're some of the quickest, most talented, most adaptable drivers for these cars, including the championship leader. But Rick Kuznetsov's time could be tough to match, and it might stand very well in the outright combined standings. Could very capably be in the top 5, very much be in the first 2 rows.
Yeah, Kuznetsov has had some fantastic form in V8SCOPS, and he seems to do very well on tracks that have a bit of brutality to them. Sebring he's been very good at, and Belle Isle smiling on him too. The track temperature climbing up steadily. It's up to 38 now. The wind is picking up, so interesting to see how that affects the times for Group 1, who will be shortly making their way to the end of pit lane. Now, the fastest time in practice belonged to Zach Rattray White. He was able to set a 1 minute 30.7. That is a fair improvement by about 0.4 of a second or so over Kuznetsov. And Rick, actually, the time that he set in Group 1 was pretty close to the one that he set in practice. It was only 0.03 of a second faster. So Kuznetsov, I think, will still remain in the top 10 unless someone has something special to bring out here in Group 2. Lining up at the end of pit lane already, waiting for the call of the green flag. And no surprise to see that Zach Rattray White and the Trans-Tasman cars of Josh Anderson and Jake Burton are the 3 drivers up the front of the field looking to make their way out. And Burton was a bit quicker off the mark. He and Anderson will lead us out of pit lane.
What a sight that is, but you look just a tiny bit further back to some drivers that are finding themselves a tiny bit of space, like James Scott.
Where did James Scott put himself in practice? I don't know if he actually... Yeah, he did set a time. It was good enough for 5th place. Hasn't been able to break into the 1 minute 30 second bracket. just yet. We'll see what car number 1 will be able to do here for Chiefs Esports Club.
So what's the way to treat these tyres on the outlap? Are you trying to energize the fronts but keep the rears cold? Are you trying to minimize any temperature? Take a look at Blake Warboys. Couple helmets. Is that regular Pikachu or Detective Pikachu?
Good question. The screen's a bit small. Oh, there we go.
Mexican Pikachu.
Arriba or something. Warboys, I reckon, yeah, he is doing a bit of weaving there on his outlap, so he does want to energize the tires a little, but I would usually take the option of putting as little heat into the tires as possible, because, you know, from years of watching these cars and analyzing them and doing a bit of driving myself from time to time, it is true what they say. The tires are best right out of the box, and you want to try and take advantage of that on the hot lap, because especially in qualifying conditions, you try to go any longer than a single lap and the tires just won't give you the grip that you need. They'll just get too hot.
They got a big tyre bank, Reese. They're just going to keep throwing green tyre after green tyre. No roaded tyres this session. Just throwing green tyres from the tyre bank at it. And Jake Burton has got in super hot there. I noticed his first sector was about a 10th down on Rick Kuznetsov's current provisional pole. So these guys have come out of the box and not immediately challenging Rick Kuznetsov. But Jake Burton, yeah, lost some time there. Zach Rattray White's doing okay on this lap. But it's not immediately going to displace Kuznetsov based on what I can tell.
Well, we'll see if that was a 0x for Burton. Yeah, he's going to be braking and pulling into pit lane. Anderson's going to follow him back in there. So we're going to leave Zach Rattray White to be the first driver to set a time here in Group 2. Where does it put him? It's going to be straight to the top. 1:31.0. Matthew Bowler goes 6th fastest. And the times will continue flowing in. James Scott goes fastest, only 0.05 of a second faster than Rattray White. Gibbs and Myers 4th and 5th. Maloney and Leonage 8th and 9th. 11th and 12th. Ultimately Matthew Bowler and O'Reilly, but they are popped back a bit further as Griffin Gardner's just gone to P6. Madison Downs' first time puts him to P10. Wow, that was quite the salvo.
Except half of this group didn't get to complete their lap and jumped out of it. A sundial. That's a sundial. Okay.
Oh, okay. But it is a claw from an eagle, so... There you go. If you ever visit that location, if you want to know where it is, that's the exit of Turn 5 right there. That's actually on the inside of Turn 5. Cool.
Love a corrugated gate. Beautiful. Ignore the stop sign, everyone, though. You can go flat out through Turn 5 as you make a left turn. Track's pretty wide on the way in there, and then sort of narrows a little on the exit, you often see. So Anderson, Burton, Freeman, Warboys, no lap completed from the first run. Hayden Veld, offset from everyone, has also aborted out of his first flying lap.
So yeah, seeing a lot of times here that could have been from Group 2. But we still have 10 minutes remaining, and crucially, because this is only a single race server, there's no hard cut to the end of qualifying. So the clock can run out, and if you are on a lap, you will be able to finish it. Anderson picking a great time to start his next hot lap with a bunch of traffic around. Unfortunately for Anderson and Burton, they, you know, you're not committing to their first laps. It's put them a bit out of sync with everyone else, so it's going to make it harder for them to find their requisite space on the racetrack. Anderson did pretty well, though, to keep the traffic at bay. You'll notice that a lot of drivers, particularly the top, They'll keep the revs very low in third gear in these cars through a lot of these slower corners. I noticed some fast drivers doing that at the official race in Indianapolis as well some months back. They just seem to really like the low revs in these cars a bit more than they did in the Gen 2s. We saw a lot of first gear exits and stuff like that in the Gen 2 cars, but these Gen 3s, they have a little bit less grip, so it's, I think, better to use the sort of lower torquey side of the engine range.
Yeah, and because the engines now are larger, I think with also a bit more rotating mass to them, I guess to keep that drivability, you can sort of pull torquier from deeper in the rev range and then use that to sort of modulate some of the grip, because it might not react as quickly as the smaller capacity engines used to. So still no time yet from Blake Warboys, but Joshua Anderson shoots to the top with the first lap that he's able to complete.
First driver into the 1-minute 30s in the qualifying session. And with the hotter track temperature now, it's going to be even harder to improve on that. See what Warboys will be able to do here. It seems like the car's looking smooth in the opening sector. Just avoid the wall jutting out there on the exit of turn 5. And then tight in at turn 6, wide out. The track is much wider on the way out than it is on the way in. Stick to the right-hand wall, sort of stick right, and then a very sharp turn left to straighten out the braking zone for turn 7. Bounce off the curb, avoid the wall jutting out once again, and then immediately back on the brakes, hard on the power out. He's using second there. It's a bit more power to use, but potentially suffering on traction and burning through the rear tyres a little more. We'll have to wait and see if that strategy benefits him.
I mean, what you really need at this phase is to bank a lap. If your first lap didn't count, then it's about time to bank one with 6 minutes left in this session. And I reckon he will. But it is just a banked type of lap, isn't it?
Yeah, still got 6.5 minutes to set a faster one. Seeing improvements from Myers and Maloney up to 4th and 7th respectively, and James Scott goes faster than Josh Anderson, takes another 1 and a bit hundredths of a second, 16 thousandths to be precise, out of that pole time. It's a good job there from James Scott. Jake Burton had his first lap on the board and only managed a 31.2. An all right banker, but he needs a bit more than that. We'll be looking for top 5 at least, will Jake. And he's on an outlap here, I believe, so we're still going to see some building here from the Trans-Tasman number 80.
Yeah, see what way he brings his tyres in. You're right, I'm reading this as an outlap for Burton at the moment. No weaving like Warboys had been doing. This is just sort of like taking the racing line at 85% of racing speed at the moment. Seems to be what is happening for Burton. And probably a good way to do it to help yourself stay out of traffic as well. If there's some drivers on push laps coming up behind you, you don't want to dawdle, be caught out too much. Just got sort of 5 seconds behind, you just sort of drive it 4 seconds slower and now get up to speed.
Yeah, fortunately for Burton, James Scott is the next car behind him who was on an in-lap. So Burton, man from Perth, lives in Melbourne currently. Will find his way through turns 1 and 2. How's the Trans-Tasman Camaro looking over the bump? Actually looked quite controlled there. Didn't look like there was any struggle at all to put the power down. Trans-Tasman always know how to set these cars up to get the best out of them, and you see the way that the cars come off these curbs. Look at how smooth it is there for Burton. There's no sort of shaking around of the car over these curbs. It's just up and down, it seems. It's riding the bumps very well.
It's a good lap. This is matching the pole pretty closely at the moment. First couple of sectors. It's another good run out onto the strand. So it's all about this tight bit around the fountain. It looks very good, and the times also look very good on this one for Jake Burton right now.
Yeah, running super close to the walls there, nails the apex of turn 11 and powers out nicely. He's using every inch of the racetrack, which is what you need around here. A little bit of a internet glitch there for Burton. He just avoids getting into the wall there. This should be a time that counts. And across the line he will come, and it'll be immediately from 13th to 5th. Good lap there from Jake.
Yeah, I'm seeing it as 5th. So the tie between himself and Kuznetsov is down to the thousandth of a second. And in the 10,000th place, it is advantage Rick Kuznetsov, I believe.
That's interesting, because like on my timing screen, actually, it looks like, so iRacing
has Kuznetsov ahead, yeah.
Yeah, iRacing has Kuznetsov ahead. On my JRT, on the local end, on my local end, for Joel Real Timing, Burton is classed as ahead. But we'll go off what the overlays here officially say.
iRacing has it to a 10,000th of a second, but only displays the 3 decimal places. So iRacing says Kuznetsov ahead of Burton, but JRT rounds to 3 decimal places and then orders them based on that. So it has Burton ahead of Kuznetsov, but iRacing and ATVO have Kuznetsov ahead of Jake Burton, and it's what iRacing says, which is what's going to set the grid.
It is. So Burton going to be on the 3rd row. Of course, Jay and Dan behind the scenes get the data to as many decimal places as they want. And it seems that, according to Jay, it's technically a 3-way tie for 5th between Kuznetsov, Burton, and Gibbs. They're only...
It is. They've all got a 131.122.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Be cooler if it was for pole.
Yeah, would be. Unfortunately, we have to...
baby, let's go.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to deal with the vast 16,000ths of a second that James Scott has over Josh Anderson for the front of the field. Down makes an improvement, but is immediately knocked back a position. Warboys has gone faster, puts himself inside the top 10 on his most recent lap, and there's a minute to go in the session. So the tie between Burton and Kuznetsov goes to 4 decimal places. They're trying to get, that's 10,000ths of a second that we're looking at. They're trying to get more decimal places behind the scenes. But we'll see exactly what they've got there. Hayden Veld, the next car that we're focusing on for the moment. 30 seconds left in the session. And we'll see. We've been fed the times in the broadcast chat. So Kuznetsov has a 131.1223. That's exactly the same for Burton. And then Gibbs with a 131.1226. So he's 3 10,000ths of a second slower than Kuznetsov and Burton. Qualifying's over, by the way. Checkered flag. And Kuznetsov and Burton are tied to 13 decimal places from what we're being told. That is insane. I've never seen a gap for a qualifying time that small. That's insane. So that's that's the official time for Jake Burton.
They're literally
Kuznetsov.
they are tied to more places than most people know pi to.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't know what to say to that. That's insane. Oh, wow. V8SCOPS of Belle always brings out some of the craziest stuff to happen in this championship, like Griffin Gardner going to third right at the end of the session. 131.0
Is
now
Burton
for
still on a
him.
flying lap?
Might be. Yeah, I think he is. Not showing a valid lap time for his last lap, so I presume it was an out lap, but he has clobbered the wall just now.
Oh.
So I think he might just bring... No, he doesn't bring it back into the pits. He's committing. He's committing to the end of the lap. What's it going to be? It's a 131.052. So the tie is finally broken, and Jake Burton is now tied with Griffin Gardner. They both set a 131.052.
The thing is, this has ruined us. We'll never be excited to a 4 decimal place tie ever again.
No, never. We
Unless it's
have
for
been
pole.
spoiled. Yeah. That's crazy. Never seen that happen before, ever. Well, how many decimal places does the tie between Gardner and Burton go down to? I suppose we'll find out at some point, but in any case, time to go through the grid for the 40 laps to come. James Scott has pole position. Josh Anderson, the Aussie Racing Cars champion, will start alongside him on the front row. Griffin Gardner nabbing third place in the dying moments of the session, and Jake Burton will join him on row 2. It'll be down to 2 10,000ths of a second of a gap between Gardner and Burton. In 5th place, Zach Rattray White, going to start alongside TTR's Brady Myers. Rick Kuznetsov, the fastest driver from Group 1, will start 7th. That was a great time there from Rick. And Robbie Gibbs will start alongside him. Running out the top 10, Blake Warboys and Jake Maloney.
Madison Down will start from 11th with Hayden Veld in 12th. Jacob O'Reilly 13th, and Emily Jones will be 14th. Corey McFarlane and Matthew Bowler 15th and 16th. This is an interesting row back here with Rehan Leonage and Jordan Ross together 17th and 18th. With Brian Borg in 19th and Kobe Jones in 20th.
21st place is Ryan Campbell with Tom Freer starting alongside. Then we have Teo Sorono and our Split 2 winner Darren Lobb on row 12. Will Sapstead is going to start alongside, wow, that's a few different names there. Sapstead and Gamble will start alongside each other, and the top 30 will be rounded out by Sebastian Vandel and Ryan O'Sullivan. Starting outside the top 30, Ocean Colangelo will have Matt Morris for very close company. Brett Loxton going to start 33rd. Liam Kerr and Thomas Freeman will round out our field. Freeman unable to set a time in qualifying. So 35 cars taking to the start here. And, well, we go through the same rigmarole, really. A short run to turn 1 off the standing start, and it's going to be very easy for an incident to emerge from this. Reminder, 40 laps, and we have a time limit of 90 minutes, so more than 1 safety car, more than 3 safety cars maybe. We will go time certain. 2 compulsory pit stops that you have to take between laps 2 and 39. And a fuel cap of 62%. So that will force a bit of fuel strategy.
Mention William Sapstead and Scott Gamble are tied to the 1,000th of a second in 27th and 28th.
Well, they are too. Wow, this is...
That's how close it is, and that's why I'm so excited for this race, because strategy is so important, track position so important, everyone's times are so close, passing is so difficult. The difference is going to be strategy, racecraft, teamwork, and getting lucky in the high likelihood of a safety car.
Yeah, those front 2 rows are looking interesting. We've got the Chiefs Esports Club cars and the Trans-Tasman cars starting line astern here at the front of the field. This will be a very tough job indeed. They'll have to work together. They'll have to look out for each other. And look out for all the pitfalls and the dangers of Belle. Revs rise, green flag, away we go for round 5 of V8SCOPS, and it's a slow start from Anderson. Griffin Gardner's going to try and get him around the outside of turn 1 there, has the inside for turn 2, and it's a Chiefs Esports Club 1-2, but only for a moment. Anderson gets the run out of turn 2 around the outside, and will move back past Gardner by the time they get to turn 3. Burton's going to get in on it as well as they fan out behind. What incidents are yet to come here in turn 3? There's one car wide. I think that was Leonage. And then, oh dear, we got one car on the wall. That's Tom Freer.
Yeah, just gently nosed into the tyres, leaves the front bumper behind, but will be able to get clear of the incident. Everyone was looking for the inside of turn 3, and most of them got through. Now it folds tightly over itself, headed for the back stretch.
2x2 on the exit further back in the field. Jones and McFarlane side by side. And hello. Madison down. I just heard clutching in the braking zone for turn 7. He's already starting to save some fuel. That's interesting to see.
Tiny bit more hip and shoulder for Rehan Leonage here, heading around towards the fountain. Just able to gather it up and try to keep some position just ahead of Jordan Ross.
So Scott, Anderson, Burton, Gardner, Myers, your top 5. Rehan Leonage running wide in turn 3 and settling back in 17th place, but he still remains in the same position he started in. The biggest gainer on lap 1. It's a bit of a tie between 3 drivers, Vandel, Morris and Kerr. They're all up 5 places each after the first lap, but we still have all 35 of our cars rolling there. We don't have a lap 1 safety car like we did in split 2. Now's the opportunity for drivers to get into the rhythm and try and plan their moves. When are they going to come in for their first stop? At the end of this lap, that's when the pit window opens. They can come in any time from now.
Race control review there. Just being noted, and you can see it on the timing column as well. Bit of space up front here between Scott, Anderson, Jake Burton. You mentioned the likelihood of a bit of fuel saving happening with some of these teammates up front. Brady Myers in 5th. Jake Maloney making plenty of spots off this race start. So from 10th to 8th, your most action happening inside the top 10 has been Jake Maloney moving to 8th place.
Bad news for Sebastian Vandel. Looks like he's dropping from the server. So we might see our first retirement from this race. Tom Freer has also pitted for repairs after he ran into the tyre bundle at turn 3. James Scott now leading by nearly a second over Joshua Anderson, and this is a bit closer to the James Scott that we saw last year, in the final year of Gen 2. Scott, when he was at Lobs Esports, they just worked out the cars and they were able to just stamp sheer domination on the rest of the field. Scott's doing all right for the moment. He's not out of the woods completely, but he's doing everything right up the front of the field. Griffin Gardner will have to try and work his way past Burton and Anderson, get a bit closer to his teammate. Zach Rattray White, who's continuing to hold on to 7th in the championship coming into this round, battling with Brady Myers for the top 5, and Kuznetsov still holding on to P7. It's been a nice stable start for the Triple Eight.
I'm thinking for James Scott, you don't actually want to lead this race by more than 1.5 to 2 seconds. So the gap he is at the moment 9/10 means he can react to what happens behind him. You don't need to make the fuel saving strategy from those behind too successful or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. It can be hard to save fuel around here, but it can be done, and it has been done in multiple occasions, including in the Logitech G Pro Invitational Series earlier this week. We'll find our way through here with Robbie Gibbs. Maloney's managed to get past both Gibbs and Warboys since the start. And who's the faster of the 3 for the moment? It looks like Warboys is actually the quickest. Start to come under some pressure from Madison down low as we get a replay here of Scott Gamble, I believe we're taking a look at here. Oh, a little bit of a check up there into turn 11, and he gets turned by Matt Morris.
They were nose to tail, 6, 7, 8 cars there. Insane the checkup that happened, and unfortunately, see that the contact that happens.
Easy to do in turn 11. 5-second penalty has been given to Teo Sorono for contact with Ryan Campbell. Lap 1, turn 1. So there was an incident in the field that we missed there in the opening turn. And well, we'll have to wait for the end of the race to see exactly where that puts Sorono, but he's making his way up nicely, up 2 places into 21st. But now keep our eyes peeled on this fight here. TTR Machines bookending this 4-way battle for 8th place. Maloney starting to lose a bit of time to Rick Kuznetsov here. Rick's managed to latch onto the back of Zach Rattray White and continue on from that. Race controller also investigating the incident we just saw on replay involving Scott Gamble.
So looking up front, Joshua Anderson closing the gap on James Scott, while Jake Burton and some of the others don't really follow him as closely as possible. Is there a team game happening to sort of one hunt, one defend, get a whole football team, split them into, forwards, midfielders and defenders here potentially. And Anderson really, really well, but not the pace dropping away, so he hasn't taken the fastest lap of the race away from James Scott, but Scott's not doing that pace anymore. Anderson is keeping his place flat and they're now closing into 4/10 behind the race leader.
Yeah, that's quite the time from Anderson on lap 4, 132.289 versus a 5:16 for Scott. So pressure's starting to come up here for the number 36. This is Teo Sorono on board for the start. Now we'll keep an eye out for Ryan Campbell in the 92. Where is he? Right in front there. And oh dear. Yep. Well, that makes sense. Very similar incident to what we saw in Split 2 with Blake Fitzpatrick. So, race controller's seen that one before. They know how it ends.
It really is the Monaco of Michigan. Single file all through this pack. Bit of team game happening. On board with Matthew Bowler.
Bowler's doing well to hold on to this one, but he's in the middle, or sort of towards the back end of this whole group of cars that have not changed position at all since the start of the race. All the way from Madison down in 11th, down to Jordan Ross in 18th. None of them have gained or lost any positions. The main gainers have been drivers sort of towards the lower midfield, the likes of Ryan O'Sullivan, Tyson Broad, Matt Morris. Morris, actually, the biggest gainer so far, up 6 places, down in 26th position. I suppose, for the moment, the drivers are just in a holding pattern at the moment in this area of the field. They're waiting for that opportunity to get ahead in the pit cycle.
Yeah, I'm a strategy idiot, but if I'm 28th or lower, sort of the rear 5 cars in the train, I take the first stop now. Unfortunately, the fuel tank restriction, I think, hampers some of the options, like taking your first stop now, and then if a safety car comes out lap 10, taking the second stop, and maybe being able to jump, like already having one of your CPSs cleared prior to the potential of a safety car. So I guess you're looking for your critical fuel lap numbers still to run a little deeper into this race.
Yeah. Well, if you're running for the front of the field, then you're going to try and go as long as possible. Up to 26 laps. That is roughly how long the fuel tank lasts in these things. So I mean, yeah, 26 laps. That it doesn't seem like a very long distance. I mean, the Split 2 race was only 19 laps long. But considering the hotter track temperature, the tyres probably wouldn't last that long either, would they?
Super hot track, 42 Celsius now. It was sort of 38, 39 during the qualifying. Still climbing underneath the sun. So almost everyone, well, not almost everyone, up front, the top two are running about a second slower than their fastest laps of the race. Jake Burton in third, 8/10 away from his PB, but then in the sort of midfield pack here, Robbie Gibbs, they never really got to flex their tyres when they were at their peak. So they are about half a second away from their fastest.
And it looks like no further action from race control. The incident we saw from Scott Gamble. A little bit of a wall hit there for Matthew Bowler, and Corey McFarlane is going to be the first driver to dive into the pits here at the end of lap 7. That's a big decision there from Corey.
Yeah, and again, I'm surprised we haven't seen a few drivers a bit further back do the same. Closing in up front here. So, James Scott, is there anything he could gain from backing Anderson back towards the pack and back towards Griffin Gardner? And whoa! I think that's what he's going to do.
I think that's what's going to happen if he tries to back him up there. There's going to be contact. There's going to be a shuffle. The pressure is on here, and Scott may have to start looking at defensive lines. It's obviously a difficult track to pass at here. As long as you're far enough ahead into turn 3, you're usually good for the rest of the lap, unless you mess up the exit of turn 6. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe that is what Scott's trying to do here.
Yeah, see, you go flat chat, and then Jake Burton holds up your teammate. But if you back it off, you bring your teammate closer to Joshua Anderson. And now there's some jeopardy that you've had the first driver make their first stop of Corey McFarlane. He's hoping that first, second, third all back each other up. Rehan Leonage will respond. So a few of the first pit stops coming in.
Yeah, so they're starting to trickle in. Only McFarlane and Leonage taking their pit stops so far. Very early indeed. That'll probably lock them into 2 long stints to end the race here. And, well, I say long, it's not really that much longer. Probably a max of about 15 laps each. But they can play around a bit, run a long middle stint potentially. It all depends on how long the pit stop actually takes. For McFarlane, it was 11.3 seconds. For Leonage, 12.1 seconds. So they've both taken tyres. That much is obvious. But Leonage taking a little bit more fuel. He can go a bit longer in stint 2.
Yeah, just stopping that lap later, probably taking 1 more lap of fuel, probably able to extend this stint, therefore, yeah, to 1 lap after where McFarlane would be able to get to. Looks like your first 2 backing it up just a little bit. Now 1.3 seconds away from PB pace. The tyres will be heating up, will be dropping off. Also, I think Scott is playing a tiny bit of a game here. Nothing too much, nothing drastic. But the tyre undercut could become powerful in this longer race in hotter conditions versus what we saw in Split 2.
You get the feeling Anderson's just stuck behind Scott now, and they both run slower than everyone behind. The fastest car on track was actually Griffin Gardner in P4 there, so I think you called it, David. Scott might be trying to back Josh Anderson up into the pursuing pack, but it's only happening at about a 10th or so per lap. McFarlane sets his first time fresh out of the pits on new tyres, and it's a quick one. 1:31.8. That is the new fastest lap of the race there for Corey McFarlane. And that's going to bring a massive undercut there. And you know what? Everyone who was racing around McFarlane, likes of Matthew Bowler, Jordan Ross, maybe Emily Jones and O'Reilly up ahead, they might want to try and respond to that because they've seen the kind of pace that McFarlane has here. Racing a bit further back. It's Brian Borg, I believe, with Teo Sorono chasing him down, but Brady Baldwin looking to make a bit of an advantage in the bright Synergy machine behind. Sapstead as well, one of the newer competitors to V8SCOPS this year. Impressed at his rise thus far. He's been able to drive pretty consistently in the top 20 in Split 1. Well, that whole fight has worked out in the favour of the Bryborg himself. And there's the call to the pits. Sorono and Baldwin, your next car's in. Bowler pitting just up ahead of them. So this is all of these guys responding to Corey McFarlane's pace.
Yeah, you don't need Ruth Buscombe calling your strategy to see someone take their first pit stop, put new tyres on, and set the fastest lap of the race and go, gee, I can't let that go unchecked for 5 or 10 laps. I maybe don't need to react immediately. I don't want to put myself in too much traffic because track position is king, but eventually you can't ignore the fact that someone pitted from 20th or so, put new tyres on, and is now going 1.5 seconds faster than the race leaders are. You can't let that go unchecked for too many more laps, and so it is starting to see a response.
Absolutely. Well, we'll see how the leaders end up responding here. Big raft of cars coming in on this lap. So we had Bowler, we had Baldwin, we had Sorono, and also Kerr, Campbell, and Colangelo. If your name starts with a consonant, then it's probably a good day to be you.
Whether mine does depends on how you pronounce it.
True. True. What's the other way?
McCain's?
Ah. Okay. Fair enough.
It depends how hard your letter H is. Is it Haynes? Haynes or just Haynes?
Yes.
Anyway.
I mean, H can be a consonant sometimes. Oh, here we go. Gently does it into turn 3. That's the move for the lead from Josh Anderson. James Scott loses P1. Anderson decided he'd had enough of the games and is now looking to extend his pace. 2 more pitters on this lap, Sapstead and Borg. How long are the leaders going to last out here? They are running 133s in the top 6 now.
Now, he's had enough of the games or decided it's his turn to have possession in this game.
Yes, because now the shoe's on the other foot, so to speak. He could potentially back Scott into Burton and then put both Chiefs esports cars behind them. Or potentially, keep a close eye out here for Brady Myers and Zach Rattray White. They'll get into the mix here for sure. Right, any takers to pit lane from the front? There's one. That's going to be Jake Burton, our first driver at the front end of the field to go for the stop. And Madison down and Emily Jones are going to follow him in. A bit of a coordinated attack here from the TTR cars. Jordan Ross and Kobe Jones will follow them in.
Yeah, you see how many cars are still within about 10 seconds of the race lead. Drivers like Kuznetsov, Blake Warboys, Robbie Gibbs, Hayden Veld back there as well as it all tumbles and changes, and we'll see exactly how much of an undercut some of those early stoppers have got. Jake Burton's come out still ahead of anyone that could have undercut them, but Corey McFarlane has gained himself some spots. Around Leonage, I think it's worked out pretty well for.
Yeah, McFarlane has managed to find himself ahead of down in Leonage there with that 5-lap undercut. Down with a slightly quicker pit stop, around about the same pit stop time. So, yeah, I'm unsure exactly how that all worked out. 0.5 of a second quicker there for Madison down. I guess Corey McFarlane was just fast at exactly the right time. The problem is he may have burned through his tyres too soon.
Like, Jake Burton's about to have 3 or 4 very good laps, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Burton could well undercut. Scott and Gardner, Hayden Belle and Jacob O'Reilly come in, but those race leaders, Anderson stays out, but is still has definitely upped his pace now, back into the 32s, while James Scott remains in the 33s.
Yeah, okay, so I think, oh, there we go, there's so Veldon O'Reilly in, and also seeing Thomas Freeman come in too. That's Baldwin getting up the inside of one of the Orbit drop bear machines. Tyson Broad, there's going to be a bit more to the story here. It looks like Sapstead might have gotten into the back of Tyson Broad here. Tried to go for the move at turn 11, but that's why you don't often see passes there. And Brady Baldwin arriving on the scene at a rate of knots. And the Vermilion Esports car of, I think that might be Serrano, who just took advantage of all of that as well.
Got just the top 12 cars that haven't stopped at this point. Surely they'll be thinking about it soon. About to see the first flying lap of Jake Burton after his stop. That could be a new fastest lap of the race. Madison down, I think, has just gotten by Corey McFarlane. If you wanted an example of the new tyres versus 7-lap-old tyres difference. Gardner and Rattray White stop. A couple more to stay with them, but James Scott, Brady Myers, Joshua Anderson staying out. Interesting.
How long are they going to push it? Are they doing this so that they can have fresher tyres at the end of the race, potentially? There is still going to be one more compulsory pit stop to do as the next lot of cars files in. Gardner, Rattray White, Gibbs, Warboys, Maloney, Morrison, Loxton. There goes Jake Burton. There's the new fastest lap, 1:31.81. And, well, that's not that much faster than what McFarlane was able to set on fresh tyres.
Yep, but McFarlane is no longer on fresh tyres. Jake Burton has got him for the next couple of laps here. The problem is, he's caught Darren Lobb, who hasn't stopped yet at all. 14-lap-old tyres for Darren Lobb, 2-lap-old tyres for Jake Burton. You've got to make this move quickly, but you should have enough of a grip offset here. 1.5 to 2 seconds a lap to be able to make it happen quickly. Perhaps at the end of the straight there.
The door opens to the right for Jake Burton, and the door is not open here for Brady Myers. Burton found his way past Lobb without much fuss.
Just saw a whole lot of the sky there, incredibly blue sky, and the only unrealistic thing is there should be about 50 aeroplane contrails over the US Midwest on a clear blue sky day.
Oh, into pit lane, a little bit of damage to the rear bumper of James Scott there. Boy, oh boy, that was a tough entry for pit lane. No black flags, though, for anybody.
He was just connecting to Aussie Broadband.
Yeah, looks like it. Into the pits they come. And Jake Burton should move through here to potentially take the lead of the race with that undercut. Let him go through here. Josh Anderson is out of pit lane here, and Burton will go for the lead.
Yeah, not a drastic difference between Burton and Anderson on the tyres as well, though. So obviously now 3 laps completed with that set for Burton. Anderson's got a brand new set and has managed to merge ahead of Darren Lobb, which is pretty important. Lobb, the only driver that hasn't stopped, is between Burton and Anderson, and Zach Rattray White, who's had a solid undercut on a whole bunch of them. It's basically minimum fuel to cover the tyres is what Rattray White and Myers have done. They have not filled their cars at this stop.
But it seems that
position, that's a good strat, I think.
Yeah, I was going to say the Chiefs cars don't seem to have done that. James Scott's pit stop time, 14.5 seconds. Griffin Gardner, 12.5 seconds. So they've put more fuel in their cars here. They want to go for either want to go for a bit of a longer stint, or potentially it's just a case of trying to minimize the stop time at the final stop, which is still yet to come. Gardner has moved ahead of Scott. In fact, yeah, James has lost out massively in that cycle.
Yeah, ran long, then took a long stop, so he got undercut and then took more fuel than some of these other drivers.
A bit interesting there. Darren Lobb hits up ahead of these guys. Corey McFarlane, who's now well and truly past the prime phase of his tyres, is slipping back hard as things stand. All these guys trying their best to take advantage of the pace difference. Up the inside went Griffin Gardner, and goodness me, it was very close to contact between them. More positions lost then for McFarlane, and well, that is the other side of the undercut. You will gain quite a few positions in the short term, but eventually you are going to have to pit again, and your car is going to get ever slower while everyone is on fresh tyres around you.
Burton and Anderson, what's going to be the game between those two? Rattray White seems to close him up a bit. Blake Warboys knows McFarlane's in that world of hurt. He wants to be the next. Down the inside, no dramas whatsoever.
Still successful overall run for McFarlane. He's up 4 places from where he started, and Leonage has managed to follow along with him. Anderson and Burton trade places up the front of the field. And yeah, it looks like there was a bit of communication between the TTR drivers there. Anderson, I mean, you saw it once he got past James Scott. He was clearly faster. What actually happened here? It looks like, yeah, Burton may have gone a little bit tight into the turn 11 hairpin, and Anderson just saw the opportunity. Burton went, yeah, okay, yeah, overall faster than me at the moment, on fresher tyres. Away you go, and Burton will try and play rear gunner to keep Rattray White off the top step.
Yeah, because with that light fuel load, if Rattray White doesn't make any progress right now, then he's got a lot to pay, perhaps a 4 or 5 second longer stop for that second CPS. So the longer they can keep Rattray White behind, and it's not looking particularly easy, the better it becomes a long game, both for Anderson and Burton, but also to bring Griffin Gardner and James Scott back into this. If James Scott's within 4 seconds of Zach Rattray White, he'll get him back, which is about the gap at the moment. It's sort of 4.5 to 5.
Well, now we let the race come to us, and we see how it turns out. Look at the gap that Anderson already has there over Burton. We've been talking all race long about drivers backing other drivers into everyone else. At this point, it seems like Jake Burton's the one doing the backing up. He has tyres that are 2 laps older than Rattray White and 3 laps older than Brady Myers, who now has the fastest lap of the race, down to a 1:31.4. And Anderson now leads by nearly 2 seconds at the start of lap 19.
So what have you got to do to make a move with a 2-lap tyre offset? Jake Burton defensive in turn 1 and defensive in turn 3. Rattray White will look one way and then the other.
No room for a cutback. Burton parked it on the apex very nicely, but Rattray White is deeper into the braking zones. He is giving Jake Burton the hurry up at every single corner here, and he's going to try around the outside of turn 5. Contact, and Rattray White gets sent into the tyres. Madison Down just sneaks past, but the Eclipse Camaro now maybe with a bit of damage to the right-hand side. He tried. I understand him trying to go for it, but man, it's difficult to pass around the outside there.
Yeah, I mean, this is very clearly Burton trying to slow him up through the previous couple of corners. Around the outside is a gutsy thing to do.
Well, fortunately, Rattray White has avoided getting any big damage. There'll probably be some superficial bumps and dings on the right side of the car, but it looks like it's still driving straight, and it still looks like it's holding on to the right kind of pace. So, play on for us up here in the comms box, but for race control, they are reviewing the inside.
Yeah, they have to review that. Griffin Gardner is the next driver to be behind Jake Burton and just knock on the rear bumper as Myers went past Burton and into second.
There's the move up the inside. Oh, not enough room to make them both through. Both of them soaring away at the wheel to try and get the car back under control, but Griffin Gardner is through on Jake Burton. Man, the fall off in pace is ridiculous here. Burton's tyres only 7.5 laps old here, and it already seems like he's slipping back.
There's something deliberate about the way he's defending, though. You saw through turn 3, Jake Burton was very clear to lose even more speed through the corner to prevent the chance of a cutback. So that's not him showing the maximum pace of his grip. That's him showing the maximum width of his car.
Fair point. I suppose now that there's some clear air and he has one of his teammates behind him, maybe we'll see Burton pick up the pace a little more. James Scott now back to 7th place. See what he can do from here, as race control have made a decision regarding William Sapstead and his turning of Tyson Broad, but that's down. Madison down, already in for his second stop.
Yeah, we're halfway. It's 20 laps done, 20 to go. We thought the fuel range was 26, so on fuel, yeah, you could stop now and you've done your 2 CPS and you'll make it home. We are seeing, though, that once there's a sort of a 5, 6, 7 lap tyre offset, that's a 1.5 second per lap pace offset, which is enough to make a move. Someone could be a second a lap quicker than you and you're keeping them behind, but if they're a 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds, 3 seconds a lap quicker on way fresher tyres, you just can't quite do it. So, interesting call from Down, but maybe he's got to do something different than all of his TTR teammates up there.
12.1 seconds in the box for Madison Down. Should definitely be enough fuel to get to the end. Finish my point from before. Sapstead, 5-second penalty for his contact with Tyson Broad there, so that will be added at either when he takes his second pit stop or added onto his time at the end of the race. So, Trey White, Burton and Gardner all still in the same spots they started in. Madison Down, the sort of outlier in all of that.
12 seconds stop for him as well, so the total fuel drop is more than 20 seconds. Everyone who only took 10 is going to have a significant amount to take at their second stop, so that includes Brady Myers potentially, but also Zach Trey White and some others that had early or quick stops.
I'm impressed that McFarlane has still managed to hold on to P10 in spite of all of this. Corrected P11 with Down being ahead before he came in for a second stop. But it's still looking pretty good for McFarlane here, dropping a few seconds to Blake Warboys, but it seems that with some time spent in clear air, the tyres back under control for the time being. And the track is starting to cool off a little bit as well. It's back down to 41 Celsius as you just saw there. Emily Jones trying to break into the top 10 meanwhile. First she has to get into 11th. Rehan Leonage up ahead of her. And Leonage and McFarlane, the two big stints here that they are pulling for stint number 2. How much longer will they last before that pace really drops off?
Madison Down found a bit of traffic on his out lap, but he cleared them quickly with the kind of pace he's got. A replay of an incident that's been called into race control.
So it's Matt Morris trying at the inside of Scott Gamble and locking up on the way into turn 3, and that's medium contact that puts Gamble behind, and saw Thomas Freeman taking advantage of that to move past as well.
No stewards, I was still in control of my car. I swear that white smoke was just me selecting a new pope.
Yes. I can't wait for that excuse to be used again.
We've got Chicago Pope, but Detroit Pope, that could be interesting.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I wonder if the Pope-mobile would be a Ford. Matthew Morris, looking like a either a penalty or under investigation. That message only just flashed up. So yeah, it is still under investigation from race control. James Scott has gotten past Rattray White for 5th place in the meantime. We're waiting for that. There was actually a further incident. So it wasn't just the problem at turn 3. Morris also hit Gamble at turn 11 as well. So I get the feeling whatever penalty might be coming his way, it's increased as a result of that.
Not particularly flattering, any of those replays on those moves.
So
I've just got to keep my eye on Madison Down, because how this goes for Madison Down affects what's the optimal strategy for everyone else left in the top 10. So Down has cleared those 2 cars in the background there, found a clear pocket of air. 32.7 was not quicker than what Anderson's doing in the race lead, but this is his first lap truly on a new set of tyres and in clean air for Madison Down. And crosses the line, and it's a 32.2. So he's just got a little undercut brewing on James Scott, on Zach Rattray White, on Jake Burton, on Griffin Gardner. Madison Down at the moment could be undercutting his way to a podium. Who knows? A lot to still happen, I feel, in this race. Lap 24 of 40.
Yeah, well, I think if you're Madison Down, you don't want to be ragging the tyres right away. You want to try and preserve them, because with him taking his second pit stop at the halfway mark, he has got a whole 20 laps to complete on this one set of tyres. And, you know, with a warm concrete track that's continually being heated up by the sun, you want to try and make those tyres last. So I wouldn't expect him to set the timing screens alight here. He just needs to make sure that he stays in touch, more or less, with the leaders here. And, you know, when they eventually pit and stand the chance of burning their tyres out early, then Madison can really strike. Madison's always been very good at playing the long game in these races. Leonage, speaking of long, that is one of the longest stints that we've seen here, 16 laps complete, and he'll come in for his final stop here. Teo Serrano follows him in, so does Tyson Broad. Race control have decided a redress order is appropriate for Matt Morris. He'll have to let Scott Gamble back by him. It's the best place to do that, though. Apparently, the straight on the run up to turn 3. And now they can play on. But I think after 2 hits from behind from Matt Morris, Scott Gamble will be wary of any further move that the 966 tries to make.
And you can gamble plenty here, because there's a casino in Detroit, and then there's a casino across the river in Canada in Windsor. So I think if you're American, you can go across the border and gamble in Canada and vice versa. As an Australian, I didn't know what to do, so I didn't gamble.
You could lose all your US dollars and all your Canadian dollars as well. Big raft of pitters on this lap. Maloney was the first in. McFarlane's joined him there with 18 laps complete on that stint. We also see Robbie Gibbs, Hayden Belle, Jake O'Reilly, Matthew Bowler, Jordan Ross just coming in behind them as well. So Madison Down will move ahead of all these guys and is the fastest car on track at the moment, 132.5, not setting the 31s that we saw from the undercuts on the first stint, but like I said, he's probably just looking after his tyres for the moment.
This clears a whole lot of space for the top 10 to pit now and not end up in traffic.
Oh,
Hello.
Baldwin. Oh dear, something happening bad to Brady. Is the car still rolling?
He's still got the
Looks like
engine.
it is.
There was no flashing yellow light for the rain light to say that it had stalled or the engine was dead, but he did have a pretty big hit into the concrete there after the spin.
Yeah, rather big, and he did that all by himself, just got spun up on the grass. Very easy to do in cars that produce 600 or more horsepower. The grass is very slippery off the racing line.
Depends on the intake inlet temperatures.
Yes.
Here we go.
Well, there's the chance. They've taken it.
And this is running the tyres on very equal stints for a lot of these drivers. It sort of went 14 laps on the tyres and then 13 laps on the tyres, now 14 to go.
And let's see where Madison Down comes out in all of this. Griffin Gardner with an 11.9 second stop. He's going to be the first out of the lane. But Down will try his best to sweep through at turn 2. Has to compromise his line on the way out. It looks like it's going to be side by side between them on the way into turn 3. Fresh tyres for Griffin Gardner. He's going to use them to keep Madison Down behind.
Quirky little pit exit there that it gives the outside of 2 but the inside of 3 to Griffin Gardner, which is really what settled it at turn 3 in the end. Is just all other things being equal, the inside line can often win in these racecraft situations.
Well, problem now for Down is he doesn't have the opportunity to try and keep Griffin Gardner behind and use up his tyres trying to pass. Griffin's already passed him. So the only thing Madison can do now is wait for Griffin to potentially burn through his tyres trying to get a gap. And then he can strike later. Next couple of pitters, Myers and Kuznetsov. Rain Campbell is down in there as well. Still waiting on the final pit stop from Emily Jones from William Sapstead. We just received it there from Sapstead. Josh Anderson, who's led the race for a very long time, as still has yet to come in. Out of the pits, meanwhile, comes Mr. Myers, 11.4 seconds. That's a fair distance ahead of where Griffin Gardner has ended up.
So interesting to see a race on a track where overtaking is difficult, but the tyre drop-off is so significant. It's sort of unstoppable force, immovable object type stuff.
Yeah, I
Your
agree.
boy's got a slowdown penalty for cutting so much at turn 3.
Yeah, I saw that. Looked like he was trying to widen the way through the corner and get a better run on Rattray White, but took a bit too much out of the inside. You're right, though. We are seeing some pretty significant tyre drop-off, but drivers are not quite able to take advantage of it. When they are able to get alongside, it's proving difficult to complete the move.
Josh Anderson's in from the lead. His first stop was 11 seconds. Total fuel drop required looking around 24 seconds. So this could be 12 or 13 for Anderson. I don't think any of his rivals have had a really good, run up at undercutting him though. Where it seems like the only people that were really in range to do it were his teammates, and they're not quite inclined to do it. Emily Jones stays out, and Anderson's stop is 12.3, and he's already rolling.
Yeah, this is going to be, I think, pretty... Oh, no! I was about to say it's going to be pretty clear between them, but Maya is side by side with Anderson on the exit. They want to try and sort this out quickly. And it looks like Myers will just give the inside to Anderson. Oh, got squeezed. What's going on here? They're still side by side on the way out. Oh, and probably bled a bit of unnecessary time there. That's going to allow Griffin Gardner to catch up a bit more.
Yeah, only 1 lap of difference tyres between these guys, and then it's 2 lap old tyres for Griffin Gardner. So it's Anderson on the newest, Myers 1 lap older, Gardner 1 lap older than that, but Madison down with his 8 lap old tyres. Might be about to see what counts for a slowdown penalty here. He's got so much work to do to hold on.
Yeah, you saw how much Warboys cut across the curb there. He basically had the whole car over it. Okay, so
Down's last lap of 33.3. Scott's last lap 31.5. Down loses another spot.
yeah, it's proving tough here for Down to hold on to his position. I think it was worth giving it a go. He might have been half expecting a safety car as well. It's been a pretty quiet race in terms of safety cars thus far.
Easy.
Yeah, I know. But I think that might have been part of the equation for Down. Like, you know, safety cars usually come out in and around pit cycles on street circuits like this. So if he was able to sort of, I don't know, get ahead of the safety car by, yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to figure out, but
I mean, when you got 5 teammates, you don't want all of them doing the same thing. And maybe, you know, he was on the coin flip here, and there was a chance that it worked out a bit better for him. But I mean, Rattray White, Kuznetsov, and Warboys are gonna hunt him down pretty quick in the next couple of laps as well. Jones yet to pit full stop.
only car left yet to serve the second
And
stop.
O'Shan
And
Colangelo.
oh yeah, Colangelo down in 27th hasn't taken a second stop yet either.
It feels kind of sexist.
Does it?
No, but it's just a quirk of how the strategy's working out that it's Emily Jones and O'Shan Colangelo, the 2 drivers that haven't stopped yet.
Yes, yes. Fair enough. Well, how much longer will they go is the question. Colangelo, with one of the longest stints so far, she's going to crack the 20 lap mark at the end of this lap. And Emily Jones potentially looking for round about the same. So we'll see what kind of drop-off we're seeing there from Colangelo. So Colangelo's fastest lap was a 33.1, and she's been setting 34s on the previous few laps. So not as much of a drop-off as I was expecting there for Ocean. Maybe she's just driving smoothly and taking care of the tires. There we go, she's in the pit lane.
Gibbs wide, almost got a bit of the marbles. Leonage has a great run here.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a potential change for P12. Leonage getting right into the back of Robbie Gibbs, who goes defensive into turn 7. Ugh, no room for Leonage to slip into. Kuznetsov and Warboys right behind them too. Actually, no, right ahead of them, that's Veldon Bowler, who are behind in the 2 ERT cars. I was looking at the wrong area of the timing screen. Silly Reese. Emily Jones finally comes in to take a second pit stop, and that is the field cleansed. Everyone has taken their compulsory pit stop requirement in this race, and now it's just that 9-lap sprint to the end.
Anderson is in such a beautiful position here with a 1.5 second lead. No one behind on tyres that could challenge him. He ran just long enough in the middle stint to not get undercut, but still to come out absolutely door to door with his teammate and have a tyre advantage on them. So that is just absolute perfection. It's all the other spots that are in flux and in question here.
Oh, that was Warboys off at the inside of turn 3. That's a big surprise. Car's still rolling, still running. He can get it going.
Is it crabbing?
Doesn't look like it, but the tire marks there at turn 3 look weird.
I think it's crabbing. It's crabbing.
All right, so wasn't contact with the turn 2 exit wall. There's something happened between Rattray White and, oh yeah, move ahead, and the boy's just lost it by himself on the way in.
Oh, maybe it's not crabbing. Oh, maybe he might have tagged the left rear, because then the car didn't want to turn right at the next corner, and I thought it was crabbing. I think the left rear toe is out.
Yeah, looks like that might be the case. So Warboy's pace will be compromised towards the end of the race. That's such a shame, though. Just looked like a lazy spin. Madison down. Still looking for
So Rayhan Leonage
more.
has just dropped behind Hayden Velden and Matthew Bowlers, because we saw Leonage having a good hot go at trying to pass Gibbs. That hasn't come off, and now we're battling door-to-door with Veld on the replay here. Veld's got the inside, which is absolutely the place to be, turning off the strand and into the most street circuit feeling part of this otherwise parkland street circuit, and just a tiny nudge onto the marbles. And teamwork, does it make the dream work sometimes?
In that case, I think it did. Leonage was just unable to turn in for the corner. And turn 8 is one of those corners where if you're on the outside, you can't defend. It's such an inside line dependent corner. Well, Burton and Scott then now on the same strategy as each other, and same for Griffin Gardner up ahead as well, but Scott is looking a little bit quicker and Burton's internet is not looking the most reliable. 1 and a bit tenths of a second out on 4th place James Scott has taken on the previous lap. So he could be building up for something here. Only going to be 7 laps to go when they cross the line next.
Maybe his internet's fine and it's his Wi-Fi that's not. I'm gonna go into bat unsponsored for Ethernet cables. Do you know how cheap a 20-meter Ethernet cable is?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think I've got one in my house. Oh, Emily Jones! Oh, and Jacob O'Reilly coming around, and a big checkup from Kobe Jones there. Same for Corey McFarlane. My lord.
Freshest tyres in the field, so trying to race back through the pack, but it offers some level of jeopardy, obviously, and a tangle has ensued with the kind of pace offset that Jones has engineered.
Emily's front end is gone, unfortunately, and it seems like potentially Jacob has gotten away with that a bit better than Jones has. Slightly less heavy contact with the wall, but regardless, probably still a bit slower than he would like. Jones got a good run out of the turn 11 hairpin and tried to dive up the inside of Jake O'Reilly, but as we've seen demonstrated a few times tonight, it's difficult to make passes on those final 2 right-handers, and O'Reilly slid up out of turn 13. That was all she wrote.
I'm still keeping an eye on down with... So, Jones, the freshest tyres, down some of the oldest tyres in the field. Netsov and Rattray White just slowly reeling in on him. But he followed the Reese Gardner school of being gentle to those tyres early in the stint.
Yep, make him last and eventually be granted with 7th place, still up 4 places from where you start. So things going all right there for Madison down thus far, but still got to keep babying those tyres for 5 laps. Myers versus Gardner, on the other hand, looks like the favour is starting to fall towards Griffin. He's catching Brady now, only by a little bit. Myers, I think, well, he's got tyres that are a lap fresher than Griffin. Oh, did he run a bit deep in turn 7 there? It almost looked like it. He carried the brakes quite a way past the apex there.
noticing how ridiculous the marbles are becoming in places as well, with the kind of tire wear we've got, how hot the track surface is. Obviously, it's making the tires very soft, falling apart, throwing marbles everywhere.
This is O'Reilly and Jones. Have a look at the run out of turn 11. Not much traction for O'Reilly. Jones goes up the inside, but not a reasonable amount of overlap, but contact still made twice in those corners. And then once again on exit, O'Reilly spins up the tires, and that spins Jones around. Gotta say, perfectly executed there from Kobe Jones. He got on the brakes at exactly the right time and avoided damage in the incident.
Yeah, that's the marbles. No grip. Once you've given up the inside because your tires are older, you've spun them up off the previous corner, you've moved late in defense, and then been too ambitious and hit someone who had much more grip than you.
Yeah, for sure. Two trades for position just happened. McFarlane's gotten past Jones, Kobe Jones, and Ross has gotten past Emily Jones. Emily's still running around out there with no front bumper on the Camaro. At least the intercooler is getting some nice airflow.
I guess it is possible to keep up with the Joneses.
And even past them. Hang in the air for a few moments. Going to be 4 laps to go now for our leader, Josh Anderson, who looks under very little pressure at the front of the field.
On board with Kobe.
On board with Kobe. The incident happens ahead, and immediately he goes, okay, stop, and find the way through. See, I think that's exactly what everyone in rookies wants everyone else to do when there's an incident ahead.
Yeah, it would have been so easy to make a guess move right, get tangled, make it a bigger incident, cascade, and Kobe Jones has put on the brakes, had a tiny bit of patience to assess it, made the right decision, and picked up a couple of spots.
Solid job. Like
straight on speed missing for Emily Jones.
Oh yeah, the War Boys getting the move done quite easily in the end. It's been a tough one for Blake as well. Running all the way down in 17th, it could have been a top 10 for him, but the slowdown that he got from cutting the inside of turn 3 and then the spin he had going into turn 3 later, just losing him way too much time. Have a look at Anderson here as well. It seems that he's still running faster than Brady Myers even now. There isn't much of a challenge here from the number 22. They are securing for now the 1-2 for Trans-Tasman Racing. 3 laps remaining. This time, Myers does go faster than Anderson by 0.3 of a second.
Second freshest tyres on the track, Oshan Colangelo. It's going to put some pressure on Liam Kerr to not be the driver last across the line. So for 31st and 32nd, Colangelo stands a reasonable chance with some good tyres, and Kerr seems to have a bit of damage on that car. There's battles much higher in the field than this, but it is just interesting to see when there's a big tyre offset, what is possible as far as passing on a street circuit.
Yeah, and I think this is the point demonstrated that I say every couple of rounds. You know, this championship is so competitive that often it doesn't matter where you are in the field. You're going to have a battle with someone, and they are going to fight tooth and nail to the very end. Colangelo will have some good experience here. She's one of the newer drivers to V8SCOPS, only just making it into Split 1 from, I believe, round 3 onwards, unless I'm completely wrong about that. Liam Kerr has had V8SCOPS starts before, so See how things work out between those two.
Good traction through 2. There's potential that aerodynamically that Mustang doesn't have perfect straight line speed, so Colangelo wants the inside, but it's covered. So this is where you got to be wily and clever. Make them go where they don't want to be, so you can stick the pass. And I guess they'll probably stay on the lead lap unless they go too wide through the fountain section.
Yeah, indeed. Our leaders not too far behind, but I think far enough behind that Colangelo and Kerr will be safe. There's a move. Rick Kuznetsov, Madison down, side by side into turn 4, and Kuznetsov completes the move. Very nicely done. This is going to be the point where Madison Down's tyres really start hurting. Look at how he's struggling to put the power down there through the staircase, and he's deep in turn 6 as well, catches the marbles. That's even more momentum lost for the 3-time champion of the series. And Rattray White might stand a chance of getting a top 8 here if that continues.
Now I think Belle, Bowler, Gibbs, there's team orders. Gibbs is dropping back big time. Gibbs is losing out massively. He gets hit. Gibbs must be short of fuel. Let his teammates have held and Bowler through. He's lifted out big time. Leonage has tried to go for it and hit him on the way in there. They'll have a little bit of time to sort this out if Gibbs is in the type of hurt I think he is.
No momentum off the hairpin there. He's getting the hurry up from Leonage and blocking the advances of the Phoenix 79. The final lap begins for Josh Anderson up the front of the field. Now, can Leonage grab that 12th place without much fuss, or will Gibbs make life incredibly difficult for him, is the big question. Still have that. Yeah, it will be. And have a look at Leonage's car placement there. He just ran a little bit wider into turn 2. They're both struggling a little bit over the bump. But might there be a dive to the inside for turn 3? Well, he's going to have a look, but it's not going to be enough. Might have to wait for turn 7. Colangelo, meanwhile, has succeeded in passing Liam Kerr. So she'll grab 31st place. Kerr quite a way behind. Looks like maybe the damage increasing there for the Mustang. But for our Camaros up the front of the field, Anderson and Myers driving a supreme race. Anderson taking that lead in style, and some very good racing between himself and James Scott, who's still down in 5th place, just keeping Maloney behind him. Last acceleration zone then for the number 36, and the Aussie Racing Cars champion of Trans-Tasman Racing will become a race winner once again here at Belle Isle. Round 5 going to Josh Anderson and Trans-Tasman Racing with a 1-2 for them at the front of the field. Myers and Gardner completing the podium. Down still defending here right at the end. Rattray White not able to make a move. Rattray White just running out of fuel there. Robbie Gibbs keeps Rehan Leonage behind. I did get a bit leery between those three in the battle for 15th. Kobe Jones just keeping Jordan Ross and Blake Warboys behind him as well. Jones will cross the line just ahead of Sapstead for 18th, and then there's the four-way fight between Loxton, O'Reilly, Sullivan and Long. Across the line they come. Something we believe has happened to O'Reilly on that last lap.
About 4 seconds.
Okay, so Million car up behind. Oh dear. Oh, that's a little bit out of turn 6 there. Too much wheel spin. Couldn't quite arrest the momentum of the car before it got into the wall. Liam Kerr, after losing the position to Ocean Colangelo, will be our last finisher here. Everyone who got to the finish of the race finishes on the lead lap. Not often you see that in V8SCOPS.
No, this is a short lap, and we had a long green flag run as well, so very interesting to see. And just a quick word for that strategy of Ocean Colangelo and Emily Jones. If we had a safety car with sort of 5 or 6 to go, everyone had already made their compulsory pit stops, well, then we would have had a restart with a very densely packed field, and those two drivers would have had the freshest tires in the field. So it's one of those things I think you do, and you go, I'll lose time in the middle stint here, and if it stays green, I'll be the loser here. But if a safety car had come in a magic window, those were two drivers that could have really, really benefited from it. So I think they gambled knowing that they were more likely to lose than win, but if they did win, they could win big.
Yeah. There's your strategies for the top 10 there, with Anderson being the winner. Nice evenly spaced laps there. Down, he rolled the dice. He tried to get some clear air in the middle of the race there with the early second stop, and he was granted an 8th place for his troubles there. Well, there'll be more opportunities to see if that kind of strategy works later on in the season. Anderson wins by 1.5 seconds from Myers. Griffin Gardner getting onto the podium for the Chiefs. Jake Burton in 4th, with James Scott rounding out your top 5 there. Not exactly where the pole sitter would have wanted to finish, but it's still a good result regardless. Jake Maloney finishes ahead of Rick Kuznetsov, and Madison Down just ahead of Zach Rattray-White. Hayden Veld rounding out your top 10. Underrated performance, I think, gaining 2 spots.
Yeah, and then Matthew Bowler finishes 11th, having gained 5. Gained Veld and Bowler both gained 1 from their teammate Robbie Gibbs, dropping back late in the race, just holding off Rayhan Leonage. Finishes in 13. Corey McFarlane in 14th, the very early undercut that was aggressive and gained him some spots. Kobe Jones 15th, Jordan Ross 16th, Blake Warboys in 17th, Emily Jones 18th, finishing with no nose on that Camaro, and could have done better without the contact in the incident that was bestowed upon her. William Sapstead 19th and Tao Sorono 20th.
21st place, Brian Borg losing 2 spots over the course of the race there, with Tyson Broad gaining 4 spots to 22nd. Brett Loxton, he started 33rd up to 23rd. Good performance there. O'Reilly, unfortunately involved in a few incidents over the course of the race, has to settle for 24th, with Ryan O'Sullivan and Darren Lobb 25th and 26th. Thomas Freeman and Scott Gamble round out your top 28, with Matt Morris and Brady Baldwin 29th and 30th. Ocean Colangelo and Liam Kerr were our last 2 finishers. Rain Campbell, Sebastian Vandel, and Tom Freer did not make it to the end of the race there, with Freer, in fact, being out on the first lap. Well, time for interviews, and first off, we should give our dues to our race winner here, Josh Anderson. Tell you what, Josh, your qualifying performance was absolutely mega. Didn't quite get the pole, but it would all come down to playing that strategy well enough on a track that was getting ever hotter as the race went on.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I was reasonably happy with quali. So yeah, to be near the front's always good, and then just try to execute right. So try to get everything right, minimize the mistakes, and just finish the race in a decent spot.
David and I were talking early on, especially when you and James were battling hard at the front of the field. We thought that James might be trying to back you in to the rest of the pack there. Do you think that was what was going on, or do you think he might have just been preserving the tires?
No, I don't. Obviously, this track's like Monaco. We saw that in the Grand Prix last week. It's really hard to pass, so track position's super important, and James earned the right to that track position with pole. So he didn't make it easy for me to try and get past him, and he had every right to make it tough. But yeah, I was trying to get past him cleanly, and I know I've had a propensity in the past to not do that, or make a little, you make a little mistake and you suddenly end up with 2 cars on the wall, and no one wants to see that. So I just tried to bide my time and try to save my tires, obviously, as well. And then when I got the run on him into 3, he made it pretty easy for me. So it was that was obviously, he could have been a lot more defensive and just hurt at both our races. So I think it was fair. And then obviously the race unfolded from there.
Yeah, safety car free, which really surprised me. Ultimately, just came down to equally spacing out those stints, looking after the tires, making sure you came out in the right kind of pocket. It got a bit leery between yourself and Brady when when your final pit stop was completed, almost together in the wall out of turn 2. But that's just the nature of this track, isn't it? It's very brutal and it's all about survival.
Yeah, mate, I knew I took a risk to go an extra lap. I had 3 seconds on it. I actually didn't know. We're racing, and Brady has every right to keep his cards close to his chest. So he didn't tell me how much fuel he saved. And to be honest, probably should have saved more fuel than what I did. So I thought I was cooked when I saw him come out of the out of turn 1. I thought I was a shot dark, but we race hard, and I wasn't going to lose. So we were either going to end up in the wall or I was going to come out in front. But maybe not. But yeah, I was happy to get that one. It was like we raced bloody hard, and Brady and I have raced very hard in the past with differing outcomes. But it was yeah, that was it. So I probably, yeah, in hindsight, I should have gone a lap earlier. I was going to go a lap early, but I was like, oh wait, I've got time. But yeah, Brady did a great job. He probably had a bit more pace. Like I was, I wasn't pushing for 100%, but I think Brady was a little bit quicker. But that's kind of why I wanted the 1 lap overcut on the tires, because I know that, I wasn't as confident to beat him with same lap tires. But you live and learn in every race you do. But yeah, it was a good race. It was on for young and old coming through turn 2, and it was like, but we raced hard, and I just made sure to brake really early into turn 3 to hold him out wide, and then made sure to really slow it up in the middle of the corner so he couldn't get a run. So but we came out the other side, and happy days.
Happy days indeed. Victory is yours in the end, and maximum points out of this round as well. You got the fastest lap as well. Is there anyone you want to thank for your performance today, Josh?
Ironically, Brady, because it's been good. We've been working together. Like we obviously have been practicing. We've been in teammates for 5 years, but we sort of put a fair bit of effort into this car, and we I went on a setup direction, and then Brady made a few evolutions to that, and yeah, we worked hard this week, and often in sim racing or in real racing, as we all know, you work hard and often don't get any reward for it. It can be brutal, and I've certainly dealt with that. So when you work hard and do get a result, it's very fulfilling, because it's a tough sport, tough gig to be racing at a high level and trying to be good, and it can be brutal sometimes. So I'm pretty bloody happy to get a win.
As you should be. Congratulations once again, Josh. Enjoy it, and we'll see you next round.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Catch up.
Josh Anderson there, winning for Trans Tasman Racing. His teammate Brady Myers came home in second spot. David stood by with him.
Well, congratulations. Big mover inside of the top 10 as far as your strategy worked out. We've just heard from Josh, sort of his side of that final stint. You stopped 1 lap earlier. You guys were level heading down towards turn 3. Your thoughts in that moment?
Yeah, it was a bit hairy. I hadn't really planned on coming out side by side with him, but yeah, just in that moment, I had to try something, and obviously Ando had green tires, so he wanted to protect his territory, and that's completely on him. Like, he's entitled to. So yeah, no hard feelings. So it was a good race. Made the best of what I could in quali. Didn't really do myself any favors, but yeah, race speed was really good. So I was really happy with how it performed and how the car went. So all things considered, I'm pretty happy.
From the driver's seat and your perspective in that race, how'd the tires feel, the drop off? What kind of curve of performance were they following? Sometimes it's not linear. They're quick and then they heat up and they drop, but then they plateau later in the stint. What was the feeling for the tires on a really hot but weird surface of track?
Yeah, my car sort of plateaued pretty early, and as long as you didn't stamp the throttle and bag up the tires and everything, they sort of looked after themselves. But yeah, I was noticing others were having pretty sizable drop-offs and cliffs, especially towards the end of the first stint. So yeah, made a mental note to obviously look after tires, and yeah, just play it smart and gradually move forward.
And in the end, we go 40 laps, no safety car, but there's always the likelihood and the chance of one. So what are you doing strategy-wise to sort of protect from a safety car bottling your strategy?
just go fast, really. I think that's the real answer is just go fast, and the rest should look after itself. But yeah, I didn't really. It was unexpected to not get a safety car tonight, but thankfully it worked in our favour, and yeah, just I don't know. I honestly didn't think about a safety car, so I'm glad it didn't happen.
Would have given you plenty to think about, depending on exactly how or when it may or may not have happened. But great team result. 1-2. You move forward some spots, gain a bunch of points, and leaving Detroit happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Leaving pretty happy. I knew this week I was looking pretty all right in terms of car speed, so I was looking to, not necessarily go points hunting, but have a sizable dig. Yeah. Come the end, I'm pretty happy, and hopefully get a bit closer back towards Maloney because he seems to be running away with it at the minute.
Keep it interesting. That's what we'll love, and we'll congratulate you once again on great second place.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Just want to throw a big shout out to everyone at TTR. Obviously, Josh and I did a lot of work this week. Made the cars pretty fast, and I think that showed in this race. Thanks to simracing.com. Thanks to Extreme Motor Trimming, Card Effects, Tim Patton Race Design, Lee Ellis Design, and to you guys for the broadcast. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, brilliant stuff from Brady Myers. And for our final interview tonight, it is the Chiefs number 93. Griffin Gardner is with us. A well-driven race from you, Griffin. You were right in the thick of that fight in the top 5.
Yeah, it's good battle there, especially in the middle stint. It all kicked off a bit, but yeah, no, it's a solid race for me tonight.
Yeah, you came out of the pits basically on the same strategy as Jake and James behind you. What were your thoughts on how the strategy worked out tonight? Was there anything different that you felt you could have done?
I definitely thought about coming in around lap 10 just to try something a bit different. The undercut was pretty powerful, but there just wasn't any gap in the pack behind, condensed field, so it was pretty standard from that point of view. I think some people put more in the first stop than others, so I did especially. But yeah, no, it's pretty normal night for strategy.
Well, Belle Isle smiled upon you today. We stay in the United States for the next round of the championship. Road Atlanta is the next round. That's going to be a big one. The walls are obviously much further away, so I think there's going to be a few more very big moves from you and James. But that track has its own pitfalls. You still got to try and manage those bumps and curbs.
Yeah, I think it'll be a very interesting track for this car. Just the nature, there's a lot of high speed corners, especially a downhill, and with the amount of understeer this car's got with the lack of air, I think it'll make for an interesting round. So I think, yeah, no, it'll be some pretty interesting racing.
All right, we look forward to potentially chatting with you again after that round is concluded at the end of June here. Griffin, is there anyone that you want to thank before we let you go?
Yeah, shout out to all the crew at Chiefs and Eclipse. Obviously Dylan and James. Dylan was spotting tonight, as well as Cody for Zach. So thanks to them. Obviously thanks to the crew at Chiefs for all they do for us, and our sponsors as well: Aussie Broadband, Logitech G, and Westfield. Thanks to the admins of the series for putting on the show, and thanks for you guys for the broadcast as well.
And thank you for joining us, Griffin Gardner. Hopefully see you at Road Atlanta.
Cheers, Race.
Well, Griffin will enjoy his podium there. And of course, yes, David, we do go to Road Atlanta for round 6. That'll be on the 29th of June with, of course, supports action on the Friday night beforehand. A classic American road course, one of my favorites on the iRacing service. Always throws up a good show.
Yeah, some big speeds, big stops, but also decent enough tyre wear. The left side tyres cop an absolute beating at Road Atlanta. So we'll look forward to that one. Look forward to more V8SCOPS as I guess the championship heats up a little bit.
Indeed, it'll be a super sprint format for that one, a 100 and 200k race there with a single race of 150ks for the support class. We hope to see you all there. Thank you so much for joining us here on SimSpeed TV. Whether you've come to us from YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, or Kick, we thank you very much for being here and sticking with us to the end. I'm Reese Gardner, David Haynes alongside me, and Jay Kennedy behind the scenes here on SimSpeed TV. We'll see you next time.